Okay, you're gonna keep this rolling? Because I have to leave for Cornwall.
Should I hitch a ride with me last night? Yeah, I went to Cornwall.
What do you mean? What's that got to do? We have a meeting at 5:30.
I know, I want to be out of here at 5:35. That's all I'm saying, man, 5:35. Hi.
Mark Joy.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
There's a lot of stuff on to be out of here at 5:30.
I know, man.
Oh, thanks. Cornwall, that's fun.
Well, if it's next to me, no.
We're going to nap.
Yes, yes.
Oh yeah, some of my tenants work there.
Oh my God.
It's like a big maze is the best way to put it.
The navigation center is not so easy to navigate.
No, it's a maze.
Yes.
What are you going there
I
for?
like that there's a floor 2.5. OEMC conference.
Where's it? Oh, it's Cornwall this time.
Yes, they moved it from the Ambassador after the bed bug incident. Yep, the bed bug.
There wouldn't be any value. We're all up and running, I believe.
We'll know in a minute.
We'll know in a minute. Okay. Okay, I'd like to call this committee meeting to order. We're looking for additions to the agenda. We'll start with you, Tim. Any?
Okay, it might add into some of this other stuff, but I want to put large trucks on municipal roads
So that'd be 15,
and splash pad.
16 splash pad. Merv?
None.
None?
None.
None?
I actually have a closed meeting. I apologize that I didn't put this in earlier. I just had a meeting at 11 o'clock, and we will be going into closed for information supplied in confidence to the municipality, which could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with contractual or other negotiations.
You weren't expecting me to write that down.
No, I was not. I just wanted it.
Closed session is good enough.
Closed, okay. And I do not have anything more to add, so can I get a motion to accept Brent?
Mhm.
Do we have any pecuniary interests?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I filled out my pecuniary interest sheet. I realize that we don't vote on these on the check register, but there is a check to Murphy's Auto Service. So I just wanted this to be above board. And Mr. Chair, do you want to witness mine, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, can I get approval of the minutes, committee meeting from August 6th? Murph? And approval of the minutes from August 30th. Jennifer? Okay. Delegations. Mark? Come on up and grab a chair there.
Trina says it's all working.
It's all working? Okay.
I brought some printouts too.
Okay.
Oh, we have them electronically
Yeah.
actually as well.
I think
But
that
if somebody wants
you can give
one,
them through there.
yeah.
So I made a little mistake and I got my wife to proofread it after I had sent it to you. So there's a couple little changes in here with regards to punctuation.
Like the name of point out?
Oops, no, I don't think I changed that. I spelled it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'll not start out in the right. But maybe we can get past that.
Yeah.
And it's all right that I have my back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, we have,
Oh, thank you very
up
much.
there, you can just step through it on the screen up there.
Perfect. Ready to.
Sandra, that's gonna be on to the, is it?
No. I get to be in the background.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much for your time and having us here. My name is Mark Drouet. I represent Delcan, and my background is in agriculture. I represented potato farmers across Canada and fruit and vegetable importers across Canada. Worked with the federal government and worked with the industry here and there a little bit. So my background is in agriculture. But here I'm here today to present to you a quick kind of overview of Delcan, what we hope to be doing, and to kind of present, probably more information than, hopefully more information what you're looking for. So might be a little bit dry, but I wanted to kind of put everything on the table for you guys. You can then kind of make a decision at the end with a kind of an action item or a next step with regards to kind of where we can go with this. So just quickly, what I plan to do is just give a quick introduction, what we hope to achieve, talk about a potential location, which is in Foymont. And we'll talk about our risk reduction measures. So how we plan on going about this. Some other considerations that I thought maybe you guys would be interested in. And some of the restraints that we have and our requests and our action. Yeah, so that's kind of how we'll kind of roll through the presentation. And of course, answer any questions that you may have. So who's Delcan? We're a small business partnership, so there's two of us. We're looking to establish a scalable, profitable production facility. That's okay.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do a profitable production facility in niche market, high quality artisan cannabis at 131 Sebastopol in Foremost.
Is the screen not stepping through? It should be
Oh.
working.
Oh, is it not working?
That's okay. Is that,
You can,
yeah, here, that's, yeah, we can pass them around.
well, we can, I can.
I've got mine right here.
Yeah, okay, good, we're good, okay.
Paper one is easy.
Perfect.
You can step in through there, Sandra, if it's not working. Just page it down.
So like I was saying, we're a small business partnership and we're looking to do sort of niche market cannabis production. And we're small in size, very small in size with regards to relative to others. And we have a focus on safety, quality, and compliance with regards to our business model. We're not looking at mass production of cannabis. Like I said before, we were doing niche market, high quality. And we find being small like this, being a partnership, we're not a big business, we're not a corporation, I think that we believe we're easy to work with, we're easy to get a hold of, and we're agile. So we're able to accommodate different concerns and opportunities. So right now we're currently operating under the medical regime. We're experienced, we're completely compliant, we're agile. Like I was saying, we're able to adjust quickly if there are concerns. We have big goals. I mean, we're younger, so we have these kind of ideas of grandeur, but we're realistic. So we have a highlight. We feel like we have a highlight. Oh, we feel like we have a high likelihood of success. And what we want to do is we want to have a reduced risk approach. So it would be a phased-in approach. And what I was saying before with Mayor Murphy was, 5,000 problems at 5,000 square feet are much easier to adjust to than problems at say 20,000, 40,000, even 500,000 square feet. So we're looking at starting at about 5,000 square feet and kind of moving our way up from there. But the other thing too is that we want to be locally focused. So we want to support the area. That's one of our reasons why we're here. We want to work with you guys. We want to be open, transparent, provide you guys with as much information in order to make a decision as possible. So what we hope to achieve is we want to start small, I was saying about 5,000 square feet, which is relatively actually tiny, but expand to 20,000 square feet over 5 years. That's the goal. Will that happen? Fingers crossed. Successfully, that would be wonderful. But right now we're talking 5,000 square feet. We want to be vertically integrated. We want to do everything in-house. We want to have our products, packaging and sales, everything in-house. We want to manage our own brand. And that's important, I find, for the risk reduction measures because there's no outside pressure. We're not going public or anything like that. Nobody's going to be pressuring us to do things that we don't want to do or that isn't within the wheelhouse or in the confines of the regulations, which I'm going to be going into very soon. And the other thing we also want to do, like I was saying, one of the reasons why we're here is support the area. We've seen positive impact from other cannabis producers in other regions, and we would plan to hire locally. And we would see, based on the other positive impacts from other jurisdictions, we see a multiplier effect from whether it be the increase in employment or the dollars that are coming in and out with regards to infrastructure and that type of stuff. And we plan, as you're going to see soon here on the next slide, we plan to work within the industrial area in Foymont on Sebastopol Drive. And we feel that this new building or newer looking building would reinvigorate that area also. So this is the location that we're proposing. It's 131 Sebastopol Drive. And like the inside of this building is great. It's solid. The bones are extremely solid. The outside needs a little bit of work, and we're willing to put the investment in. And that's part of the reason why we're here, is because this is going to take a lot of investment. So this is the proposed location. It's it's the one on the left there. That's our cross building, and we think it's ideal. Why do we think it's ideal? Is because it's scalable. As you can see, there's different sections there that we can section off and grow as we move through our business model. So one of the things that most people will ask are, what are the risks here? And the interesting thing working through cannabis production is that federal act and regulations are kind of your backstop here in the municipality. The Cannabis Act governs, to be frank, everything. from production, distribution, sales, possession, all that type of stuff. What we're here to talk about today is really the production. So it outlines very strict requirements of what you need to do in order to produce cannabis. What types of cannabis are you producing? You have to have safe production. You have to have good production practices, what they call it. Labeling requirements, packaging requirements, tracking requirements, and restrictions on promotional activities. That's just a couple of them. There's a whole load of federal regulations that restrict production and sales. At Delcan, we have this in mind. We have our good management practices in place. And all of this, I'm not saying that we came up with this. This is all in compliance with the Federal Act and the regulations. So you need public documentation of the company, the directors, the officers, the employee, in order to reduce any criminal elements. So all of those people do security checks. So there's no chance any criminal element comes into this. And then if that takes place, you're in non-compliance and they kick you out. You lose it. we really do not want, everything has to stay in compliance. So the security checks happen for all the directors, officers, employees. So you're not going to have any black market or any issues with that. We have a master grower and quality assurance. So we're going to have high quality. The tracking system tracks all cannabis coming in and going out of the facility. There's no there's always small risk, but there's no chance for leakage. We will lose our license. And that really prevents any illegal cannabis from being introduced and going out of the facility. And then the neat thing is that there's monthly disclosure. Health Canada follows up monthly on the value and volume of cannabis being produced coming in and out of the facility. So their eyes are very much on this, and that's your kind of risk reduction backstop for this production. We also have good production practices. Of course, we're going niche market. We want to go niche market, high quality, low volume. So we need to have really good production practices. And some of this really does fall within the Federal Act and regs. Some of the big ones being, say, air filtration, so no odors in and out. We must have clean equipment. Production techniques need to be standardized. Testing and quality assurance and retaining samples. All these types of things really reduce the risk on the product and the production, the way that we're producing it. And of course, recalls if necessary. If something gets out there, there's a recall way to do it. We are reducing risks by having our security measures in place that are, of course, I'm not coming up with it. I'm not, the one writing this. It's the Federal Act and regs that govern this. But perimeter security, access points, monitoring, pass cards, security checks, storage. Everything needs to be extremely secure. And how we're going to be doing this is that we're working with the top security consultant in Canada for cannabis production facilities, David Hyde and Associates. So they're essentially our consultants that are providing us with all the plans that will ensure that the Federal Act and regs are covered when we go with our plans. And they're number one in Canada. Our HVAC, lighting and plumbing, we have a group called Cannabis License Experts, again, top-notch individuals. And like we were saying, we're producing under the medical, so we're leveraging some of our past experience also. Of course, there's the compliance monitoring, like I was saying, monthly, they come in and look, but they verify that we're complying with the acts, and they also verify the fact that they'll come in beforehand and visually examine the building. They're going to come in and they're going to kind of give their stamp of approval when it comes to being in compliance with all the Federal Act and regs, which I was just talking about. And of course, the monthly audits or the monthly record keeping, and they take samples for laboratory analysis and all that. So their eye is on us. And the big stick is the non-compliance when it's identified. It can go all the way from voluntary amendments to, maybe changing the security camera angle or something like that, to shutting down the operation. Like there's a wide range of problems that could happen in non-compliance. So I just threw together a couple other considerations that maybe you guys might be thinking about, but the environmental impact of this is low. Different studies have shown that cannabis production, it does use electricity and water. Those are the two big inputs, but not to any different degree than any other agricultural application. And what we also see is that it's just the progress of business, the inputs cost. So we want to reduce our costs. So we're always going to be looking at energy efficiency and that type of stuff. Odors has been a big issue. Under the federal act and regs, it absolutely restricts odors, and they regulate it by ensuring that you have a HEPA filter type. It's a little bit more high end than that, but it's a HEPA filter type filtration going out, and there are 0 odors. And then the other one is the supply chain risk, where some folks have been concerned about having a production facility and thinking that maybe the product will get out into the area, and that will not happen here because it's a closed system. Ontario cannabis stores are the only retailers able to sell cannabis. So we will not have a drive-by window that we're selling cannabis or anything like that. The retail is totally out of our purview. We will not be selling cannabis to end users. We will be selling it to it's essentially a monopolized market by the government. So there's no open market, and that government control monopoly really reduces a lot of risks of the product getting into the hands of folks that shouldn't be. A couple other quick considerations. Talk about zoning and security. We feel that this location is kind of well away from the community, or at least the at-risk community. We were not going to have any signage demonstrating that we're producing marijuana or anything like that. It's going to be pretty kind of low key. It's going to be in a closed, secure building. It's not going to be a greenhouse. Greenhouses have very different security risks and kind of displaying to the world that you're producing something and prying eyes. So that's a risk there. And of course, we're going to be improving the building facades to modern standards under the federal act and regs. So it's going to be a nice, crisp building. We're feeling there's going to be some positive impact on the community. We plan to hire locally. We plan to improve the industrial infrastructure and hopefully have a positive impact like we've seen in other production facilities where we see increased jobs and land values kind of increase the multiplier effect. Again, we talked about the sales and consumption. We're not encouraging consumption or anything like that. Everything's going to be very low key. We're not selling anything. And of course, compliance. We have to be in compliance with all these risk reduction measures or we will lose our license, and there goes our investment. We're not here to do that. So really here, the next steps is, this is where I did a little bit of a change here. In order to get started, we require a significant investment in the area, in the building, in the production rooms, these types of things. We're looking at about $3 to $5 million of investment here. And we're fully willing to do that. But the difference now is that Health Canada has noted that if you want to apply for a production facility and get the approval, you have to have it up and running for them to come in and look at it. Before it was a hope and a dream. Before it was, you can have plans, you can have blueprints, or you can have a lease agreement or whatever it was, and you can drop that in front of them and they could say, okay, you're good, go for it. You'll be approved on these plans. Now plans are no longer sufficient. So that $3 to $5 million is at risk if the township is not on board. So there's a part of the federal in the cannabis regulations that says that part of the pre-licensing requirement is to kind of, it was really to acknowledge the fact, but we're here to ask. So what we need is, before submitting the application, we need the local government to say that it's okay, that you're in support of the cannabis production facility in your area. Once we have that letter, we're then able to start construction. If we don't have that letter, we don't plan on putting the $3 to $5 million to start construction with the risk of not being able to move forward. So really, that's kind of what we were here to put on the table, was a little bit of information on Delcan and that kind of action item with regards to a letter of support.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
I'm going to start, and I think we need to go into closed, but I'm going to start in open first. If that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Yes, that's fine. Yep.
So the number one challenge you've got to begin with is the zoning of that building. It is not zoned for this. At the county level, they would be suggesting that you go and seek their pre-zoning approvals, find out if it can even be done. So basically, if you can't rezone. The other thing, I'm just gonna throw this out there. There are some water challenges in Foymount, with wells, et cetera. I don't know if you've taken that into consideration,
We have.
Okay. because,
We would have it delivered.
So you- Question I was gonna ask, you're gonna catch rainwater off of the roof? I know you're gonna use a lot of water.
Yeah, we have that in place already. It's not enough, the rainwater off the roof. But at the end of the day, we would have it delivered.
okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I would ask that we go into close, please,
Yeah.
for the purposes of an identifiable individual. Mark, if you would stay, and is that your partner?
Yes.
Just one
Okay.
general question. What happens to the old plants?
The old plants.
Yeah, I mean, you don't use the same plant producer. I've never grown marijuana, but I presume you grow, you harvest, and then you plant new.
Exactly. It's essentially, I don't know, like greenhouse farming, kind of very, very much the same thing. A lot of the greenhouse farmers, they'll start with some seed. We start with a clipping, and it's called a clone, and you put it in one of those seed pods, or those little kind of jiffy pots kind of thing, and you propagate them that way. At the end of the day, that product becomes what we're selling. The flower off that product becomes what we're selling, and then the disposal of the rest of the plant is highly regulated. So you could there's ways to dispose of it in a way that it's no longer usable. Under the old regimes was mix it with kitty litter. As much as the science behind that was mix it with kitty litter and bury it. That as simple as that to incineration.
So got a motion to go into close? Brent? Greg,
Yeah.
you want to come up, please? Grab yourself a chair there.
Got it.
This is a bit different than some of the other things you were talking about. But two things. One is I gave all of you the information, and it's yours because you sent me the testing.
And we
So-
appreciate it, by the way.
Yeah,
Thank you for doing it.
And so if anybody else needs it, it's up to you to give it to them, not me,
Okay.
Right.
because you did the thing. Okay, and this is very, different. It's in Lake Clear because of a lot of discussions and questions going on. So this test was test done, which was at the very, very busiest part of the lake. And I will say that this year, interestingly enough, there was more people and more things happening this summer than I've ever seen before, and we've been here 20 years. So the testing was very good at that point because it was at the,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
busiest
It was the
part.
appropriate time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So the briefing is about a special summer test of Lake Clear on the 8th of August, 2019. This is a discussion of checking the lake at the most busy and number of people attending, affecting the water to see if any requirement for a law is needed. If any law is requested, it must be previously tested and confirmed if there is or not a problem. Other than major seagulls problem in May and June, and just to give you a quick background to that, the seagulls 3 years ago or 4 years ago were very, very bad. Although getting, after better in 3 years of egg oiling, because 4 years ago, there was 1,800 parent gulls, 2,500 kid gulls for a total of 4,300. It is now down to 1,000 parent gulls. So it's been knocked down to 1/4, a little bit less than 1/4. The summer, fall, and spring tests are without gulls and good. So that bit with the gulls, which is very serious, is gone for all those different tests. And they tell you exactly what the lake is about. Thus, the late fall and early spring test and the metal test and previous summer test was proven that Lake Clear is very good to best. The test on August 8th is when the lake is most occupied and the most issues. Again, it comes out very good to best. So no problem, but the seagulls. That's basically what it is. And I'm just going to go through it all now to let you know. The test will determine Lake Clear's status with all summer and permanent occupations restricted by Ontario government trout lake population requirement. And that was done way back when there was about 1,000 lakes they tested, and about out of the 1,000, there was about 400 which were trout lakes. This is a trout lake too, so we're a little bit shorter, a little bit better that they needed. So the what I'm going to say here too, as well as what's on the back, the current caducean certificate, and was an analyst of 60 tests that I did on the water. And the list from the Renfrew County and the District Health Unit, which is also attached to that, are included with this statement. The District Health Unit list of E. coli of the public beach in northwest of Lake Clear, just above the Seagull Island. The E. coli list of 10, which is what theirs has, that's their lowest that they can do. but it is actually less than 2, like the one from Caduceus. So there are 4 things that is tested that are most important, and it sets the standard for the lake. And these were set up by the Ontario government and their test status. So I'll give you very sort of briefly these things. First of all, on the E. coli, which leads to serious sickness, beach closure, and swimmer itch, and it is from feces and farming. The very best for E. coli is less than 2. Best, and this is the government stuff, best is less than 100. Okay is 100 to 200. This has just been changed this year. And very bad is 200 plus. This summer test was very best at less than 2 for the entire lake. So, you know, it's virtually 0 feces. Phosphorus. Phosphorus is one of the worst things because it leads to green algae, slime, explosion, and removing oxygen and blackening sun, you know, death. And this is a very serious issue, and it kills animals, lake animals, and fish. So phosphorus is a very, you know, important one to look at to make sure that things are okay. The Ontario government test best is 0.00 to 0.010. Very good is 0.010 to 0.015. Good is 0.015 to 0.020, and bad is 0.02 to 0.050. The summer test for the phosphorus was very good, again at 0.013. pH tells the water level from not enough acid and chemicals to okay to too much acid and chemicals. So that's the way they do it. And the government proof is from 0 to 6, so from nothing to 6. As it goes down from 6, it is very, very bad and serious in the lake. 6 to 9 is what they consider good and the way it is. And 9 to 14, as it gets worse and worse and worse and more of the chemicals and death happening to fish, lake animals, and as well that people are swimming, there's some serious issues from the chemicals that are hitting them. Ontario government now, when we were talking about the fact that it's a trout lake, their numbers were set up at 6.5 to 8.5 as good. And this one here this summer is good in trout lake, set at 8.14. So that one is also good. Ontario government test for visual water depth. Now that's something that is very important as well. And it's based on clarity. And what it is, it creates 2 times the depth is what the sun goes down to. Okay, so at that depth, this increases the depth of plant growing, making additional oxygen production, which is very, very much better in the lake for everything, and including all the animals and the people swimming and all that kind of stuff. So the best visibility, very best visibility is 24 to 40 feet deep. Very good is 18 to 24 deep. Good is 12 to 18, and bad is 0 to 12. And again, this summer test is very good at 20 feet clear. So that's just the information of what it is, and I'll give it to you very, you know, basically in a second. Again, this test final improvement on how Lake Clear is in a very good shape and better than most of the lakes in this area. So Lake Clear is one of the best in this entire area. And to go through the 4 again, just to let you know, E. coli, test less than 2, very best. Phosphorus, test average 0.013, very good. pH, test average 8.14, center good area. Lake water clarity, test average 20 feet, very good, which puts that lake at the very good to best state. And one of the things that I want to tell you, remember, this will give you an idea. I told you that less than 2 for the E. coli. Well, in the past, with the gulls, when they were, that 4,000 and that was there are a couple of things that were taken by the Renfrew County and District Health Units. This was on the island, or on the beach. And to give you an idea, these are what the extensive things were. And this is E. coli, 584, 192, 109, 656, 781, 784, and 694. So that's what it was before with the gulls. And now, when we did this in the summer, less than 2. So that shows you how well that lake is, and this is the problem. And the problem's getting much better, but it has to keep going. This response are excellent in the time that the lake is most busy. Late fall and early spring are even better. When checking the situation effect on Lake Clear, this means that there is good and best. Therefore, Lake Clear is definitely okay. Note one problem still in the Gull Island, which needs to continue the Gull egg oiling to close it in. This year was about 1,000 gulls, which lay approximately 40 pounds of feces every day, which contains 10% phosphorus, 13% nitrogen, and 20% E. coli. This stays on the island. Then if there was wind and rain and it was blowing north, then it would go onto the beach, and that would cause the problems. This stays on the island. Then that's what I'm saying, and then it went up there. And before I ask you questions, I want to thank you for doing the test, with me, to legally prove that Lake Clear is very good, one of the best in the area, and no law requirement. Okay, and so I have any questions from you?
Yes, thanks a lot for your for your testing and your work there, Greg. It gives us a lot of information. Just on going through these, and I know you did an average, so I'm just sort of picking out worst case scenario for phosphorus was North Large. Are these the same points that you used when you did the testing before?
These ones here?
Like when you identify the client, for example, North Large.
Yes, just so you guys can.
Yeah. So it's the same as these, right?
Yeah, what there is here, like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is all of the lake testing.
Okay, so just so everything is consistent.
In particular, for example, how far would North Large be from the island? Because that has a high level. I'm just wondering if it's because of the gulls.
Here, North Large is 1, 2, 3, 4,
Actually, East Shallow and Deep Water
Yeah.
as well.
This one here is 5, and it's here, and this is the big island.
Right there is where
the
the
biggest
birds.
island and the
Okay.
small here. So, and there's the double island in here. So this is where that is right in that area there.
Okay.
And it's because this is sort of, closed up a bit because it doesn't,
Yeah,
going
it doesn't
down.
get the
But
flow,
that's-
so it's
that's where
sort
it
of,
is for
yeah.
that one there.
And, okay. And then the other one would be the Opiongo. That's up at the other end. That's at the resort. Is that what that is?
Opiongo is number 2. Yes, Opiongo is right at Opiongo Mountain Resort.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the
Yeah.
beach and where all the people and all
Yeah.
the things are and everything.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah.
That's great.
So, no,
Good information.
is, that map you've given us that
Yeah.
before, have you not?
What's that,
A copy of the map.
I have not, but we can,
Yeah, I could,
I think we did the last time you were here, didn't we? Or did we just look at it
I
maybe?
I think you looked at it. What I
Oh.
can do is if you can, if
Yeah.
you want to copy it and stuff. then
Yeah,
that'd
be super.
It'd be
get
good,
copies of it, yeah.
because then we'd be able to correlate, right?
Yeah,
If we had
And then
any questions.
identify the two, or the two together, our sheet with
Yeah.
that and
Yeah,
Yeah, and you notice here, this is Caducean.
Yeah.
here With these two.
Yeah.
The average is on the bottom that I put there.
Yeah, that's just the math you did. That's
We
the
did
thing.
the testing with Wayne Lacquier for the depth.
Okay.
And those are on there. And this one here again is the one from, the other
Yeah.
guys. And I've worked with M&R, I've worked with these guys here. I've been at it for 3 years.
Yeah.
And so we've been extensively into it. And I gotta say, talking to other people in other lakes and everything, this is the best lake. It's just unbelievably clean, clear. This summer, like I said, there was more people here than ever before. And swimming and doing all that kind of stuff. And yet when you look at the test, it's fine. And the key to all of that, obviously, is that because it was set up by the government, onto the trout,
Yeah.
okay, thing. Right now, there's no more, it's full. By them, it's full. They can't sell
Yeah.
anymore or build, kind of thing. So that bottom is good. And one of the other comments that I need to make too, because I was there for 20 years. And what happened when we first came, there was a bunch of toilets outside, in the little box. And when we were there over about 5 or 6 years, everybody I know was getting rid of those and putting the proper things in it. And it was your guy who was here, your working guy in that. I'm just trying to think of his name.
Mark?
No. Bill?
I don't know, he was here anyway. He's the guy that came out and helped us and everything.
Yeah.
And all of it did. And so all of a sudden it went clean. And then the gulls came in and it went, way back. And I have to say in 2015, before the start of this thing, people were sick. It was totally green, like everything. And I know people, the swimming itch and everything was terrible around the whole, half western side of the lake and all that kind of stuff. That was from the 4,300 seagulls that were there.
Oh.
And I know right now that LCC is putting in a second request hopefully for the next 3 years, and that should get rid of it. And that should get rid of it.
So that's what I was just gonna follow up with, but you answered our questions, Jen and my question, I was just wondering, because we know we're at the end of this cycle.
Yeah,
So-
Yeah.
So is this, for them to put in a request, does that base it on any testing, or is it just a simple request? How's that work? Because you were involved in that before. were you
well, I
not?
was involved the whole time,
Yeah.
but the one test was, they did a little test at the island this spring. But the thing was, well, I know I told you last time, I got
Yeah.
fired and I don't know
Yeah.
why. But the long story short was, I'm the guy who wrote the requirement that sent it to the government 3 years ago. And we got a 3-year thing, which was totally unknown.
Yeah.
And so what I think should happen, which you can pass to whatever, but the first thing I would do if it was me, I would send the last report, complete, that we sent 3 years ago. And I'd send it to them and said, this is what we sent. And the key is pictures.
Yeah.
And so sent that with the pictures. This is what we did 3 years ago. Pictures this year, which I took a bunch of them and passed them on to everybody. Send that, say, okay, 3 years ago, this is what we sent. This is what you gave us. This is it now. This is what's here. And we need another 3 years. Please give us that and that. And they will say, oh, geez, look at that. And oh, look at this. And then they will give it to them at the end.
Yeah,
So,
because in my opinion, I know nothing about this, but in my opinion, if you just sent them the criteria of the lake right now, they would say it doesn't warrant, probably does not warrant.
well, yeah.
Unless you take the years past, like you say, and add it together.
Well, that's what
Watch
I'm
it.
saying. You
Yeah.
put it, but
Yeah.
the key though, the key is that I've always done was pictures.
Yeah.
And as soon as they look, and I took pictures, I was up on the island, and I got pictures of all the eggs and pictures of the gulls, and there's tons of them and all this thing. So, that goes to them now and say, hey, we're doing okay, but
But we're not
they
done
do
yet.
this and then they
And we're
get
not
it.
done yet. We have to finish it off.
Yeah,
And we,
exactly.
and we don't want it to ramp back up. I think that's the point.
What's
right? You don't want it to get worse.
Oh, geez.
You don't
right.
want it to go back to the 4,000.
Oh, no, yeah.
So-
As a matter of fact, absolutely. If they say no and you can't, that's gonna, in about a year and a half or 2
Yeah.
years, it's gonna go back to the worst part that's been on the lake.
Something for us to definitely keep our eye on.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You haven't been blessed with cormorants yet, have you?
What's that?
You haven't been blessed with cormorants out there yet.
No, I haven't been blessed by anybody because I got fired and I don't know why.
No, that we've
I've been doing the most work for everybody, and I've had
Yeah.
all the people that was part of, this and everything, helping with the oiling and the this and that and everything. They're all my best friends, and they all have thanked me so much for doing all the hard work that I did. And it cost me, as I said then, way over $1,000 because I have to drive all the way to eastern Ontario to pick up the stuff, drive back, take the test, and then I have to drive back within less than 24 hours to go back so the test can done, and then drive back. So it's 4 drives, plus 4 hours in the water doing the testing. Because like I told you there, it was 60 tests. And that's, that's expensive as hell.
So we have cormorants on Golden Lake. Actually, I think they're worse than gulls. Most of the gulls have moved out.
Yes, I heard that, but the cormorants, just so you know, the cormorants are very interesting. We had about 17 to 20 on the lake, but cormorants don't lay their own eggs, and they lay them in the seagull things. And when I was looking at it, a couple of years when I was on the thing, you can see, 3 seagull legs and 2 other ones, 2 white ones in there. So they're all gone. And this year we saw maybe 5 or 6 was the most that ever was here. So they're getting less and less.
I think, any other questions for anybody? I think that's, we appreciate what you've done, Greg. It gives us lots of information, and now we can ensure that going forward, we can continuing of the goal or oiling of the eggs so that we can, get rid of
Yeah,
this.
and I know that there's some of the people who, was with me last or before, they said they want to continue testing.
Yeah.
So they're going to check with LCPOA and LCC to see if they can continue the testing, because that will approve, kind of thing that's going on. And so I thank you very much for
Thank you.
all the time.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, it was
Thank
my
you.
4 years, and so. And just because I told you I was in the Navy, but I had 2 science degrees, and what the military did was sent me to England, and then it sent me to US, and they sent me to these places where they're making the stuff that killed people.
Oh, that's,
Sort of thing. So I said, no, I'm going to join the Navy.
There you go.
Get out of here. And so doing this was really good, because that was all my background for all my degrees that I had for this kind of stuff. So it worked out well. It was
Excellent.
fun. I liked it. Yeah.
thanks,
Okay.
Greg.
Thank you.
All
Excellent.
right, thanks, Greg.
Darrell?
Darrell? Good. Hope that report's not too long.
I'm exhausted from reading it.
It's longer than normal. I don't know.
It actually
You
is.
Must have got your finger stuck.
It almost went to another page.
Yes, that's right. So, we haven't received our final audit report yet, but we're in the books, and we were in on time, so everything should be good that way. And other than that, everything else is just normal stuff that we do every day.
Goodbye, Darrell.
She's in a hurry. Oh, boy. how did the signs fare out for the RV dumping station? Good. Or where do we have them situated? Just at the location itself?
Anyway, tell them how many you use.
Was there any
People there.
Any problems with it whatsoever? Anybody doing anything whatsoever?
No.
Perfect.
No messes.
Good.
So,
That is good to hear.
so I guess after Thanksgiving, we'll close it up.
I
I
would,
would think.
I would say that's probably good enough, I would think. And if there's any issues or concerns, people would let us know, but I think by the end of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, because I have to shut the water off because it's not.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
winterization has to be taken place.
Everybody should empty their tanks up for the winter by then.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, when the heavy frost starts, I think most of us are doing it, right?
Perfect.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Daryl.
Thanks, Daryl.
Bill,
How is everyone today?
Good, Bill. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome back, Deb.
Thanks, Bill.
Everybody had an opportunity to go through my report?
yes, we have.
Good. So I can just follow Daryl right at the door?
Yep. I just wanted to show everybody this. We did receive a certificate of appreciation to our township from Laurentian Valley for our help during the flood. So I thought that was very nice that they would send that. Yeah. I think it's just roads department, right?
Put on Bill's wall there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we, well, you know what? Other than the delivery, and they took some, we took some, but the thanks really goes to EDPS and the Opiongo. Like they, you know, without them, it would be, without those two schools, hopefully we don't need them again.
I was, yeah.
If,
Don't worry, Bill, I'm not going to be warden next year, so you watch. There will be no natural disasters.
right on.
I think
You
it's
can
me.
take them with you.
Yeah, I think it's me.
So Sandra has a couple bylaws that we just, or not bylaws, I'm sorry, resolutions of council that
Yes.
need to be passed, just for the purchase of the truck. They're looking at, the one for the purchase of the truck, they're looking at roughly about 5 months on delivery. 150 days is what it is.
Where's that dealer?
Francis, which is in Ottawa, but Antrim will be doing the work on it. So it's the same,
Okay.
the same thing. So they'll be doing the work
So
on it.
realistically, we'll get it next year.
Yeah, so it probably won't be till February, March.
You
I'm
get yours
thinking.
before he gets his, Ben. You get yours before he gets his.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Mine's
say-
supposed to be in at the end of November, early
You're
December.
ahead of us, Ben. I did speak with John Reinhardt. I think if council is in agreement with that we can, that would be a good thing.
He's always very fair with us.
He's been very fair. He hasn't changed his prices. I have them here. So last year for the four-wheel drive at $70 an hour. And then we have them also, we always include in the tender a loader and a tandem truck in the event that we can't keep up, that they can do it. We haven't had to do that in many years, but it's been there. So it's $75 for a front end loader and $65 per hour for tandem. So that's what his cost was. So he said he would honor that for another year if we were in agreement. He's been basically the only one that has tendered in the last couple of years. So we should go with it. Sam's done. And so again, Sandra has the resolution for council to accept Greenwood's bid.
Yeah.
So we've gone through, or McIntosh and Perry has gone through that. So they've reviewed them all and they recommend that we accept Greenwood. Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, that's it. Good to go?
Yeah.
I can walk out the door?
Yeah.
All right.
Um,
Back at 4 o'clock?
yes, please.
Okay.
Can we take just 5 minutes?
Sure. We'll take
Thanks.
5-minute break. Up and running, Sandra?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we'll go ahead to correspondence.
Oh, then did you want Steve here when you discuss
Correspondence
traffic
C.
noise or speed limit?
That's up to,
No, I think we can,
Do you have any questions?
I don't, the bylaw is what the bylaw is, so I don't think we need Steve really here for that,
that's what I was gonna say.
you know? I mean, it is, but we can move ahead to correspondence.
I like what Whitewater sent us. That was very interesting
Mm-hmm.
with the way they're spending their efficiency money.
Mhm.
But I think what I'd like to do is, the county's trying to set up a facilities meeting for October 23rd. Is that correct? Oh, you haven't seen it yet? Okay. So I think at that point, we're gonna try and see if there are things that we can share amongst the county, including procurement. So it should be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, Whitewater seems to be doing everything in-house.
Yeah, I
They
think,
didn't look outside, or maybe they did.
but they are joining the meeting.
Maybe they did, but nobody wants to play.
That will remain to be seen, I guess.
Well, they left in 94,000 for their efficiencies
Yeah.
anyways. So if there is something.
Interestingly enough, when he sent that email to everybody, he said we should all get together.
He might not have gotten the email at that
No, no,
time.
no, no.
Oh,
Whitewater.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
Whitewater's, as far as I know from their read, Whitewater is in for the discussion.
Police Service Board, do we need anything? What are you thinking about that? They want,
Do you need training?
I don't believe I need training, but I just,
You know
I
how
wanted to
boards-
put it on correspondence.
You know how boards and councils operate?
That I do, so I don't think there's any need for that.
I don't either. As
No.
long as you're comfortable, I don't think so.
This time I really don't see a need for it.
Okay, and we've had a couple of boomerang things, the need for blasting bylaw, which we discussed months ago, and the cats we also have sort of taken care of, so
I called Dennis the next day after that, and they're very happy, so.
good.
Yeah, then just for Colson traffic noise, I saw that was down below and new and unfinished, but they're two separate kind of things, so we can talk about that. But it's more just for the correspondence, so like, just so he emailed me and that was just for the noise from just engine brakes coming through town and stuff. I'm not sure what our existing bylaw is.
Okay,
like,
so
for it.
two
Like, when was
councils
that put
ago,
in?
we had a lot of local truckers.
Yeah.
And I mean local, say that they would really like to be able to use their engine brakes during the day. They totally understood about nighttime,
Mhm.
no doubt. And so we as a council made the decision to change our bylaw from absolutely no, because they're like prohibited, which we couldn't enforce,
Mhm.
right? We don't have enough enforcement, but we also thought it was fair to the residents and it was fair to our local truckers. I understand Mr. Colson saying, we're the ones paying taxes and everything else, but this was a request from in Bonnechere Valley.
So I think, so when I was looking at it, and that's why I added, so when we were back in, that would have been August last year, was Mr. Keese's letter he wrote into council at
Yes.
the time. So I had Sandra add that in, and I think, in my opinion, the main problem is the speed coming down the hill. That's my perspective on it, and that's why we had like the radar sign up there. I think it was 3 times this year. You can see the recordings. Jack sent them all to us and stuff. So I think that is something that we probably should look at. We can track the amount of volume that comes through Eganville and comes through the main corridor coming in. But you can see that if we had, say, a radar sign top of the hill, we can track it. Secondly, there is a reduction in speed. And I think that that's kind of a way to kind of transition into this problem. Like if we start getting more correspondences, it's something we could ask the people of Eganville as well,
So-
as a whole.
So what he was talking about was sort of what Tweed has. When you drive into Tweed, it's on the
The speed
Tweed
limit is showing
sign,
right there.
and it's just very small.
Yeah.
But
So maybe what we could do, because I mean, Adamston Bromley had actually requested to borrow our speed sign. And our response from last council was, we could use 2 or 3 more of these. So to loan it out would be very difficult. But perhaps what we could do is, for our next budget cycle, is ask Bill to bring back some of the prices on the solar paneled ones that go on our Bonnechere Valley sign especially coming in from this end.
Yeah, how I was kind of looking at is like we do, like I was going through kind of Cobden's and how they kind of allocated their funds for that one specific grant that we got for like modernizing and just for like infrastructure as well and stuff. So one of the things I was looking at is just for community and safety, how I looked at it is we could kind of look at, and for next year, maybe applying some of that for signs here in the off the Highway 60, and like 2 of them on both entrances, to see how much volume we actually have coming into town. But secondly, then we can utilize that sign for the other areas that don't have as heavy as traffic as well, because we can use the mobile sign, say on Fourth Shoot and stuff, if there is going to be more traffic there, and same as on other roads, that we don't need to have a permanent sign there. But I think because the Highway 60 comes down the corridor, and I used to be actually fully against these signs, to be honest, like my actual opinion, but the more research I've done, and I've seen them in more communities, and coming down that hill and actually driving through and seeing your speed, and it does draw people. And I've seen a lot of people, and you can look at the data, and there's a lot of people that come through town. But I would like to share that information with business owners as well, to kind of show them the actual volume of traffic, like just that comes through our town. So that's how I look at it. I think we should actually seriously look at what Cobden kind of did, but look at and see if we want to devote some of our funds to how to make the community more safer. And that's how I look at it.
So,
I was actually going to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so going back to the engine brake bylaws.
Yeah,
Okay, so the trucks that make any sort of noise today
yes,
in the commercial truck business with an engine brake, those trucks that were making the big loud noise 10 years ago, or when you used this, are being phased out every day, because as they reach a certain end of their life expectancy, so some guys with a little bit of nursing can get into the 1.5 kilometers on their trucks, right? So a lot of the highway guys, they're in excess of 200,000 kilometers per year. So as time goes on, okay,
yep. Just doing the quick math in my head.
I'll back it up a little bit. With the emission standards that's on our trucks, there is no way for them to make noise anymore, because they're shoving all of our exhausts through this almost chunk of styrofoam. So my engine brake never shuts off, by the way. I never shut it off because you can't hear it.
Okay.
Because if you noticed any of the new Duramax diesels and stuff coming out, anything with this DEF stuff and anything with that fancy muffler, one box, remember I always said I had to replace that? Well, that will not permit excess noise coming out of that truck. So what they have done in order to stop the old guys from doing what they call glider kits and putting old engines and stuff, now everything has to meet a certain amount of emissions up to that point. There is enforcement on the road today driving around to see if anybody is tampering with their emission systems, and they have to follow the law. So the thing is, within the next year or two, because of just sheer time, the actual engine brake noise, it's not going to be us. You're going to be worried about maybe the Harley with his straight pipes, maybe some recreational user, and not saying that they shouldn't be able to do so, but it's not coming with anybody
That
on the
was going
trucking
to be
industry.
my exact question to you, and
So-
I didn't want to. I've heard you talk about this before. I didn't want to look like an idiot on YouTube.
No.
So I'm glad you answered it before I asked it.
No, and that's fine, because actually previous council had actually contacted me to ask me what I had thought, because it was something that they had been addressed with.
And that's why I thought that it was really important that people know these weren't trucking companies from Quebec. These were our own logging guys and our own transport truck guys that were asking for it.
Well, and I remember, Tim and I, we've had a conversation about, like, I've always said, I said, thanks for like going down the road actually slow where I live over in Melanie Street, because he goes down appropriately. You never hear anything, or you have some Wild West sometimes.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later too, in the large trucks on municipal roads.
But the thing is that's why I've spoken to Tim previously on, say, like the Jake brakes and stuff getting utilized in town, engine brakes, and we know that's a transition. So that's why I focused more. When I read that correspondence, I more looked at it as how can we control the kind of speed coming through the town? So it's preventing, like, whatever we can do as a municipality, and that's why I look at the funds. I'm like, on the top of 60, there you have the public, the school crosswalk that goes across here. You have high volume people have moved to area. Yes, it is a highway, but we should at least limit the amount of speed coming through. And that's why I think the main concern, to my understanding, is that's what the issue really comes down to, is the speed of the traffic that's coming through the town. And we can control the volume. We know how many people are coming to town, which is good for business. And the more people we get to stop, the more people buy stuff in our town, which is awesome.
But going back to the engine brake thing too, I don't think it's very wise of anybody to ask somebody to remove 20 to 60% of their braking power just to solve some, and there's going to be idiots everywhere, but it's 20 to 60% of your braking power with that engine brake. So emergency situations, you name it, if you are telling them to shut that thing off, and if there is anything that happens in those times, I wouldn't feel comfortable even doing so. You know, that.
But Tim, I think the information that you're providing us is excellent. So I think that sort of, I tend to agree with Brent that sort of takes that concern off the table to a certain extent, because it will be phased out.
Well, and that's the thing. Like I said, mine never shuts off because the engine brake, while it's on, is there's less decibels than when I'm actually accelerating. So if I go to take off from the stop light down, say the light is red, my truck is quiet or louder when I'm giving it fuel accelerating than it is when I'm slowing down with the engine brake.
And just for a note, both Mr. Keast and Mr. Coulson showed appreciation to Bill when the sign was up at the top of the hill versus they had it was slightly lower in other years.
Yes.
And they showed a lot of appreciation. So not only are they the ones that email us, one pertaining to the engine brakes, but also to like the speed from last year. But this year, when the sign was actually utilized up there, they've been here for multiple years and they showed appreciation in the township. So I think an easy solution for this is to look at, so in our 2020 budget, and look at the grant that were provided to make it safer in our community. I think that we should get Bill to look into it. That's for sure. Get some prices, then we can make the decision.
Actually, Dana could probably look at it.
Getting back to the speed signs, I like the idea of the smaller ones. Ours are too big and cumbersome for a lot of these places.
I agree with you. I think what Brent is saying is that because of location, Bill had it sort of down the hill a bit.
I know, because
And
they
then-
had that room.
That's right, and then found a little niche. But I agree with you, Mark, if we were going with a permanent one, you want the smaller one, so it's not,
Same
If
size mounted.
technology was available, wouldn't it be nice to have a smaller one that showed you your speed, and maybe a couple of 100 yards down the road, it said you're still speeding?
You know what else would be really awesome too? If we all had a device that was in our dash that told us how fast we were going.
I haven't paid attention to it.
okay.
That would be so wonderful. If they ever invented a thing that would be inside the vehicle, when you're going down the road and it tells you how fast you're going, you know, that'd be $1 million idea.
Tim 50 and older, if this comes out.
What would we call it?
I'm not sure.
I thought they called it a speedometer.
I heard speed thermometer before. That
Oh,
was like
speed
a-
thermometer, that's
Speed
good.
thermometer.
So then we'll get Dana to
Yeah.
pull up the prices for it, and then we can talk to Bill, see where we could
Absolutely.
potentially mount them.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Anything else in correspondence, guys? We know there's a note from River Run.
No problem there, eh?
No, that's just the extension of
Yeah.
their.
Yeah,
That's why
Just
we're-
Wellington Street's here, and then it's just off of 4th Shoot right here.
That's why we,
So this is an extension to give them more time to do their environmental assessments and that kind of thing, Dana.
Yeah.
Getting a good nod from Dana over there. You taught me well.
Yeah.
So where do I find now as a counselor the information on that?
Dana can give, didn't you just have it?
What's that?
No.
Oh,
he's-
Sandra did.
Oh, the letter?
You can see all of it.
Yes, yeah, no, the information
Yeah.
on the. project.
that was done prior to us
Prior
coming to
to-
council.
Yeah, pretty much, Tim. It's
You were actually on
Oh, the
council,
last
that's how
time-
long it's
A
been.
long
Tim,
time
it's,
ago,
uh,
but who
it's
knows how
getting
much
an
it's
engineered
changed.
document
It
to bring
hasn't-
water
it
down
just
from
hasn't,
Wellington down to
been
the 6
developed.
lots down below,
Okay,
and that's what it is. So it's
Could you go back just to correspondence for
Sure.
number 2, under B number 2, I guess there probably needs to be a letter sent to that gentleman then?
For what? For blasting?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
So what was the consensus? Because I wasn't sitting in the.
well, when we discussed it in, I believe, May, we said that that was out of our jurisdiction, did we not?
Anything with explosive blasting
Yeah.
federal.
It's
Unfortunately,
still out of our jurisdiction. Hasn't
I know.
changed.
well, and we can't regulate the
No.
province.
No.
No,
Federal.
it's actual federal. It's not.
Yeah, it is
Countries.
federal, you're right.
You're
During
actually.
my working career, if any problems with blasting,
Yeah.
dynamite, Mountie squad.
So,
There you go.
anything else, Dave?
No, that's good, thanks.
Okay, yeah, so anyways, just for bringing Tim up to speed or myself up to speed so we can get that from Sandra.
Yeah,
Okay,
it hasn't changed though.
all right, so you want to go ahead to, is that it for correspondence then? We'll go ahead to, you want to give your county update?
Sure. So in the month of August, I attended 32 meetings on county business. Yes, I recognize that there aren't 32 days in the month, but that's what I
Unless
did.
you were here one day.
And I, of course, had my Bonnechere Valley duties, but the reason I'm bringing this forward is that we had a very successful AMO conference. We had a delegation with Mr. Todd Smith from Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services about social services delivery in the province. We had a delegation with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing with Parliamentary Assistant Carm Gill about our service delivery improvement project. And apparently we are very far ahead of the curve in the province. We are trying to get all of our services under one roof at the County Administration Building in Pembroke and at RCP or Renfrew County Place in Renfrew. And the plans at RCP are already going. There's demolition and new construction. And I believe that we're going to try and get CAB going next year. We met with Treasury Board Secretariat, Minister Peter Bethlen-Falvey regarding opportunities to fund efficiencies while providing cost savings to ratepayers. I also questioned the minister at the Bear Pit with regards to the $1 billion in more funding of the Treasury Board. If you want to see his answer, which I'm not sure I really understood, you can see it on the AMO's YouTube channel. It sounds like they're using it for procurement and some cost savings over the next 10 years. We also met with Ministry of Infrastructure with Minister Laurie Scott regarding County Road 51. We also met with the Ministry of Transportation, Minister Caroline Mulrooney, regarding the use of the Ottawa Valley Recreation Trail for active transportation. We then met with the Ministry of Long-Term Care, Dr. Mary Lee Fullerton, regarding long-term care funding. What I have here, if anybody wants, I can have somebody make copies if you'd like to see the presentations that we made to each of the ministers. They're in this very, very well done booklet that the staff at Renfrew County did. I also, through the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, met with the NDP caucus. That meeting I actually led because the chair of the caucus was not available, so I, as the vice chair, led it. Gave them all the same information of the things that we're looking at because they are the opposition party. And also through the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, we had a meeting with the government. We had, I believe, 10 ministers there, including, of course, Yak. And I always introduce myself as Yak's warden. So, it was, I think, a very productive meeting. We are definitely going to have to find some efficiencies. Obviously, we had some good news come out of AMO about the paramedic service. and a couple of other funding announcements. And anything that you'd like to know about AMO is on their website. All the plenaries are there. Unfortunately, with the schedule I had, I didn't make it to any plenaries, and the one that I did manage to get to was full. So, but that being said, it was extremely productive. It was a great week. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for Jen, guys? There you go.
I'm off the hook.
Short and sweet, no questions.
And it's very fair.
Yeah. Mr. Dave. Ready?
I think we got a lot of information from him.
Hey, Dave. Hey,
That was great.
good.
Dave, the shop looks good, by the way.
Getting there, right?
Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah, okay.
I have a question.
So it's the good news you have for us.
Hey,
What's the good news you have for us? Fire band's down to level
fire band's down to level one.
Everybody's happy now? Few
Yeah.
people are happy?
Well, you know what, to be honest with you, residents didn't have a problem, really, but from what I gather, it was all people coming from outside.
Yeah.
Coming in.
Cottagers.
Yeah, and people renting, like renting for a weekend.
Yeah.
Renting for a
Yeah.
week or whatnot, but ratepayers generally understood, especially campground owners.
Yeah.
I actually had campgrounds impose their own ban before we even did. Back in 6 weeks ago, I guess 7 weeks ago, which was encouraging to see that they recognized, that we were in a drought type situation. So, yeah, I was happy to see that.
Good.
So,
For someone renting a cottage, is it the cottage owner that gets the fine, or is it the people that made the fire?
it's the person
It's
that
present?
makes the fire.
Oh, okay.
And we did have a couple of instances where we went and the property owner gave some misinformation. So the people, obviously, we were good with them,
Mhm.
But other than that, it's just like you door somebody's car and you speed, right? You're the one getting the ticket kind of thing. So
Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
sure for the fire, like
Yeah.
just
it's the actual person that
perfect.
does that. So,
But in case where somebody give them wrong information, you really can't hold them accountable.
yeah, it's just like every circumstance is different. So we
Yeah.
can gauge. All of our tickets weren't the full $500, which it could have been, but there were some extenuating circumstances that we were able to do a lesser fine. Right back at the beginning when we initiated the ban, there's some people that had just come up kind of thing. So we were able to be lenient in some circumstances, but
So do you have bag signs on order for next year?
yeah, they're in the works right now. Well, they're not bag signs. You can't
Oh.
really get bag signs for fire ban. I've looked and Teresa's looked.
Okay.
Can't get them. So the only companies that are doing them right now and that we could find are doing strictly election signs.
Boy, this time of year, forget it.
Yeah, so, or like Bob the Painter, but they have preset things that they print.
Right.
So I do have, I think 500 coming. I should have them soon, but, and you know what, those signs this year I found wouldn't have mattered. People knew there was a ban. Right?
Well, and it's my understanding from some of the other mayors that their fire departments do have those signs,
Mhm.
and they're everywhere, and they're still handing out tickets.
Well, look at Mad Valley. I mean, they got them all along the highway. They got them everywhere. you
Mad
go.
Valley did 25 tickets this year.
How many did you do?
7.
And they had signs.
They had a lot. He's got lots of them. Yeah. So we're still going to do that for our next fire season,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
they're a little bit different than the bag signs. So, yeah, and every little bit helps,
Yeah, but in ordering election signs, I think the minimum of 2,000 if you wanted
Mhm.
a printing or something like that.
Right. So I'm able to do 500 to keep it affordable.
Yeah.
It's like a screen printer. I'm not sure exactly what the terminology is, but it should work out well for us.
Let's see our counts, fire counts.
Count's way up, and obviously you can count on that being from the level 2 ban, right? People were very conscientious about burning, and it was generally a neighbor or somebody drive by. I got a lot of calls from boats, from people on boats out on the lakes,
Oh, yeah.
phoning in fires. So, which is good. People were, when it was really, really dry, people were alert and they were aware of the people around them that may have been inclined to burn. So,
Well, and your information officer did a wonderful job of forcing out stuff on social media. That certainly helped, and being in touch with the campground owners and the lake associations, that's the way to get the word out.
Yeah, those are my go-tos, right? Lake Clear and Golden Lake. They're people that communicate with the Property Owners Association. Those are my first emails before we decided to put a ban on. I can't take one off, right?
I was talking to Dave earlier, where I'm working. I leave Greater Madawaska and then go into North Frontenac. So they have one sign on one side of the bridge, basically, and it's an extreme. And as soon as I cross, it's at moderate. So, and people can come from different locations via 4-wheelers and stuff, and they go camping. And I think it's very important to do the steps he's taken in getting those signs, because you can, if you're coming via different routes into Bonnechere Valley, easily come through without not knowing that there is, even though we have it widespread across our stuff, that, like I say, I seen firsthand almost all summer, it never went to the extreme in North Frontenac. So, and that's right across the Madawaska River there, just at Calabogie, right?
And we, of course, share Golden Lake with the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan, KHR, and NAW, and that caused some confusion as well, because some of the people that are in rentals, they don't know what township they're in.
No, I have no idea.
They have no idea.
What county they're in, let alone the municipality.
Algonquins had that big sign up, no fires.
Yeah, for a while,
For
yeah.
a while,
For
but it wasn't.
quite a while.
But with the Renfrew County Chiefs Association, our intent, not this last meeting, but the meeting before, was to put out a consistent message across the county with who maybe, like Pembroke, Petawawa were different, but Madawaska Valley, KHR, us, and NAW, BLR, Madawaska,
And
GM, we were all supposed to either go into a band together and then come out of the band together and not do the craziness that happened. As soon as what happened in NAW, where the chief was gone, they all of a sudden didn't have a phone number. So all of a sudden my work phone blew up for 3 days.
Well, they come out,
Right.
they come out of the fire ban.
They dropped the fire ban right away.
Yeah.
Without any consultation with their neighbors. And all of a sudden, each side of the lake, one side of the lake's had lots of bonfires, the other side of the lake can't have them. So it caused all sorts of confusion. And unfortunately, people blame the townships, the administration of the townships, and not necessarily the circumstance that for some reason this happened and it shouldn't have. Right.
So a lot of your calls that you've been, like, you receive probably a fair number of fire ban calls, I would assume. Like
as far as response calls?
No, like people saying, is it level 1, level 2?
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of something I've always thought about, is like, is there no way, like, I know in our industry, like, you have like press 1 to like tell you the fire ban, and then press 2 to actually continue the call. Is that something that would benefit, or
no? What I did is on my phone,
Yeah.
I put a message on there and I just stopped answering.
Okay.
Right. And I figured if somebody didn't leave a message, it wasn't an emergency. They were looking for information. But it was not anybody ever from here.
Okay.
It was Mississauga, Toronto, Burlington, London, Ottawa. That's where all the numbers are coming in.
Yeah. Because that's what I was thinking, just try to make it
So
a little
I put it
easier.
on my message, my greeting. That's this date. This is where we're at. Have a nice day. If you need me, leave a message.
Yeah.
Right. So.
No.
Just a little silly spin off of this ban. I'm inclined to attend the odd church supper this time of year. Well, they cook the potatoes in big cast iron pot, but we can't, there's no fire. Brunel Linda had no sand baked beans. Or Brunel rather, had no sand baked beans.
And Opiongo Mountain Resort actually they understand that, you know, the summers are getting worse, so they actually adapted and they did a pig roast, usually on an open spit. This time they've invested in a covered spit.
Oh,
You know, so they're able to do it because they know there's going to be a ban. The last couple of years have been bad, so hopefully next year's
we
not.
can't win. We go from flood to drought
Yeah,
to this.
and
That's
a big thing for
It
us
just
is
snow,
that
that's right.
we have people coming in. You want the tourists to come in, you want them to enjoy their experience and whatnot, but we can't control the weather. But it's tough because we get a lot of flack. You know, me a lot of flack from people on the phone, and you know, there's nothing we can do about it, right? And people just don't understand coming from the city. You know, a gentleman from Ottawa, we got him doing fireworks and a campfire, and I asked him if he was allowed to burn in his backyard in Ottawa, and he said no. And I asked him why, and he said because we're not allowed. And I said, well, why do you think that we would allow it, like automatically? Because we're in the country, right? So he got it. But you know, that's the thing when you come from the concrete jungle, all of a sudden it's different rules, right? So
It's funny coming from the guy that moved here 19 years ago.
From the jungle
right?
itself. So,
You know
Swinging
we're
from
not,
subway to subway.
you know we're not actually from here, right?
jungle to jungle.
that's right.
So I had one other question for the chief. This OAFC issues raised during AMO.
Yeah.
There was lots of hallway talk about different things. Some of these were absolutely some of the issues. The other thing was that Mayor Robin Jones asked a question of Sylvia Jones at the Bear Pit with regards to your fire regulation. So that was some good news coming out of AMO. But could you keep your eye on some of these? Because I would assume you're going to see a lot of stuff come down fairly quickly out of the AMO conference.
I assume that you're gonna see a whole lot more paperwork to do.
No, that's the one thing that Sylvia Jones was saying wouldn't happen.
Okay.
They're trying to reduce the not the amount of paperwork, but the way the SIRs are done. So
Yeah, because it's very confusing and time consuming right now. There's a few things in here. We're already promoting carbon monoxide in public spaces,
mhm.
with the schools and with Fairfields as well. So I think that's a very important thing. We've actually had an alarm from a newly installed one in a public space where a furnace was malfunctioning, right? And that's not required currently by law. The increase in the amount of Part 1 offenses to the fire code is going to be interesting. That's what I was talking about before, where there may be another 40 charges under the fire code.
It's crazy.
And it's not like going back to the tickets. And I know we've talked about this before. It's certainly we want to educate.
Yeah.
Prior to enforcement, right? You know, there are some circumstances where you kind of have to enforce when it comes to smoke alarms, stuff like that, where things have been in play for a long time. You know, and it's just whether it's willful or not, or it's ignorance. It's still, you know, it could be the difference between somebody's life and death, right? So that kind of stuff, I think, is something we have to walk a fine line in when it comes to offenses and ticketing. But we're not. Fire department's supposed to be the good guys, and I don't want to be seen as not that. So it's going to be a last resort when it comes to fire code stuff. Right?
I was surprised.
Extremes.
I was surprised they're recommending the seal batteries now. Like
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
really surprised by that, just because it's like on the landlord side, we always go in once a year, you check it, and
Yeah.
the thing is some of the clientele you deal with, they take them down, so you have to put a new one up almost every year. You give them the bill, and that's how she goes. But I was just surprised that they're recommending that, because it's kind of a way people have gone in every year,
Well,
every 6 months.
And the amount of, especially being at the schools, when we do our educational stuff at the schools during fire prevention week, the amount of kids that raise their hand when mommy or daddy takes the battery out of the smoke alarm when they're cooking. And the kids never know if the batteries ever go back in or the smoke alarm ever goes back up. Right?
There's a reason for heat detectors in the kitchen.
No, this is a reason for sealed batteries. Okay. So you can't take the battery out, right? And I guess the alternative is to chuck it outside if it's going off. And
Well, and the new houses are all lined up together anyways, and there's strobes mandatory too.
Yeah, they're interconnected now.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions about the M&R wildfire hazard report? But I sent the attachment and whatnot.
I think it's useful.
It's useful for us, but we also gauge on, because we're in the middle we're between Pembroke and the Bancroft reporting area. So I sort of take an average of the two and base it on our local conditions. You know, if I'm driving around and I see everybody's hayfield, pasture field looks like the Sahara, then we know it's pretty dry, right? But it's also a good tool to back up us going into or coming out of the ban as well, right? If we're getting information straight from the M&R. So, and the M&R also, we're back and forth communicating with them as far as our status at any time in the township. So whether we're in the ban or not, they want to know. It helps with their response as well and their enforcement as well if they have to enforce on crown land. So, also have 4 people going to fireworks certification course next month, which is good. Some of our fireworks people have moved on to different careers or moved out of the area, so we're sort of getting light on people that were certified to be able to fire up, shoot fireworks. So I'll have 4 more in come the end of October, so which is good. And we want to keep that program going because we've invested a lot in it now, and if we can keep staff engaged and keep them certified to do it, then they won't have any issues, right? So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to highlight this time around. Also, I sent a copy, or gave everybody a copy of the public reports regulation. So the only thing that really applied to us on this was 5, 6, and 7. If anybody had read through the volunteer firefighters, the table there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8 they were gauged to departments that had their own dispatch system. So you get a 911, like here, not all 911 calls go to North Bay. From North Bay, then they're disseminated depending on what the call is. If it's OPP, fire, and ambulance, for this area, it goes to Smith Falls. And from Smith Falls, it goes to the Renfrew CAC Center. So if we had our own fire department dispatch, those initial ones that I said, that's where that would apply to. Everything else is what applies. We already document 5, 6, and 7 that's on that table. So it's already on paper for us. So for us, reporting wouldn't have been a big deal. Right? So that public report regulation really wouldn't have affected us all that much. Yeah, it would have just been in addition to the SIR every time they sent the SIR.
Well, I kind of assume that those 3 things would be important if you would have.
Yeah, we get them.
Snack.
Yeah, they're all documented in case of legal issues.
If
there's a lawsuit or whatnot, they need to know. So.
It's the fan afterwards.
Anything else to bless us with, Dave?
I don't think so. No, I think we're in good shape. We're continually renewing
Still getting some new recruits.
We got a couple more that have started with us. Trying to get the numbers up. It's tough with that the age group that we're looking at because a lot of people are working out of town. Right, I've got a bunch of people that work in Ottawa that are never around during the day, and sometimes they're on weekends. But we do well as far as the people we have in our response. We do very well, with our numbers that we have right now. I'd like to always like to have a few extras, but.
Okay, any other questions for him? There you go. You're free to go.
Tim has a question.
No, we're good, Dave.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
Have a nice week. See you on Friday.
See you around.
We'll go to
You
the
got
range, Dave.
You got a picture of her at the door?
You
to make sure
should.
Your wife was coming in? I said, you get a picture for the door, just to be sure his wife was coming home.
Yeah, really.
When the warden's gone, we can go play.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, Cornwall, yeah.
Okay, I guess we'll go back to new unfinished business. PSAB segment validation policy,
It's just an update
Yeah.
on PSAP.
PSAP is
Yeah.
fine.
So the Roma conference, what we did was we booked 2 rooms at the Sheraton, just in case somebody else wanted to go. And if we don't need that, I think it was put in your name.
Yeah, like I won't be going to this one just because the sun's supposed to be due December 29th, so.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, let's
so
not
I'll
do
probably
that. All right.
postpone that one.
So if anybody else wants to go to Roma, we do have a room, and if you don't want to go, we can sell or give the room to another municipality. There are always people at the, sort of 11th hour going, oh, I have to stay at the blah, blah, blah. So it's really nice to stay at the actual site.
Well, we'll upcharge, buy them early and then
Yeah,
sell them
that's
off. That's perfect.
Scalping rooms at Roma.
I like it.
Hey, we get
Saves the taxpayer.
finding money someplace, right?
That's right, exactly.
Okay,
Did traffic noise?
yeah, traffic noise.
That's all.
Oh,
Like we
done?
already talked about in
We already talked
correspondence.
about that.
Yep.
I believe we have a resolution for the tender of number 5.
For the tender, so we'll have a resolution tonight.
Yep.
Number 6, CIP signage application.
So Dana, do we have enough money for both of these applications? Then I think they're both lovely ideas.
Yeah.
I like the pictures. Did you guys see the space between, like in person?
Mhm.
That blue is incredible. Does it ever stand out? It's like as blue as Jean's shirt. It's like spectacular. So that'll look really nice.
Mhm.
What would that leave us with in that particular
Oh, I
fund?
have to look, I think there was 7,000.
Oh, so we still have a little bit.
7,000 and then minus the 2 applications. So there's-
In the committee, when we met last time for like the remaining of the fund, some members were reaching out to some other people in the community, like other
Okay.
business owners and stuff that could use the funding and stuff. So
So
just kind of re-energizing it again.
And it was also in the last newsletter as well, so we still had some funds.
So what do you need from council?
So we would just, on number 6 and 7, there's a council resolution. for that
Perfect.
as well.
Excellent. So you have a new bucket of money opening, Dana.
Yes.
What are we applying for?
We'll have the discussion.
And
Well, I had a couple ideas. We could, because it's for community hubs and also infrastructure of community facilities. They give ideas like arenas, but we've invested quite a bit of money into the arena. So I was thinking the next one could be the curling club.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yep.
Because we own that building.
And the curling club,
Yeah, they have done it. We've done a lot of work. They have replaced their color
I think it was like 40,000, I think, for that grant last year.
And the lights
and lights, but it's still.
and the rocks. But that was because of the escape room.
I was gonna say, the escape room was fantastic.
Wasn't it
I
fantastic?
still,
So you would-
anytime anybody talks about that, I tried to send as many people as I could because it was just, it was great.
It was.
It blew me away. I was beyond my expectations of what we would have here.
Well, and it
And,
was fun to team build.
but just the sheer amount of time that Gerald and company put into
I know.
that, it was just fantastic. So
Well, it caught me off guard, like guaranteed. Like I didn't expect the technology to be the exact
That's what I'm
same as
saying.
what you are in the Ottawa facilities.
It-
So
it-
going into next year, we're probably going to dominate because we all know what to
no, but
expect.
it exceeded my expectations.
That's
for sure.
lovely.
Yeah.
That's great.
Curling club,
So
Number
there's
one project,
curling
wash
club
them up.
or the tennis courts as well.
Can we apply for both?
That's was, or the community little
Like
center.
Legion, like just like the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, but I was gonna say curling club upstairs washroom.
Yes,
So, and then the next round, handicap accessible.
I know that. I just, You know what the problem with that is?
Well, the way they're designed.
I don't
They're all
know
designed the
where,
same.
I know, where would you put it?
I know, that's the problem. And how would you put it around?
I've stood there and gone,
Exterior
okay,
elevator.
you know, how do you, yeah,
Well, you would need a,
Basically.
you would have to find a
Exterior
spot to
elevator.
put a lift system, then you
Yeah.
have to yeah, it's more complicated,
But
but
I-
it is doable technically.
but I think it would have to be outside, and then how do you do that?
Well, you, alongside the outside of your building, an
Take
exterior
Yeah,
elevator.
In a-
So,
yeah.
no, but out and then into one of your walls, you'd have to come through.
Yeah,
But the gavel is gonna come down one
Take
of
where
these
your,
days.
take where your table is.
where,
On the outside, come in through the building, then it'd almost be like another.
But yeah, you'd have to do
Yeah,
an
to
exterior
connect
elevator, like
yeah.
to say,
Yeah.
so when you're going in, they wouldn't use the same
Yeah.
doors as you and I would.
Yeah.
They'd have to do it inside or whatever.
Yeah.
Get your elevator shaft built on the outside of the building. You can add to it.
Yeah.
But
It's just a lot of money.
The gavel is gonna come down one of these days.
I know.
Not handicapped accessible,
I know.
shut her down.
Yep.
It's gonna happen.
Good luck, Dana.
Yeah.
We're counting on you.
Mhm.
Bring us loads of money.
Yeah, no pressure.
Okay.
We'll do, you want to do October meeting schedule first, and then we'll get Steve up?
Yeah, so it would have been really weird to have the 24th and then the 1st. And October actually has 5 Tuesdays, so what's being proposed is the 8th and the,
And the,
22nd?
So the 8th and the 22nd?
yes.
Oh,
What?
the 22nd, I think we should go another week or before or after, if that's possible. I guess not.
Why?
somebody's birthday?
No. I know it's gonna be a busy time.
1, 2, 3, 4,
For you, at work, you
5,
mean?
Mhm.
6 weeks. That's 6 weeks away. So.
Well, October 22nd is the day
Yeah,
after the federal election.
Oh, yes, it is. Well,
Well, could we go to like a Wednesday?
yeah, I was gonna say.
You know, I don't mind as long as we can float it in that week, but I don't think I'm gonna have
So
much
the
sleep on the
6th.
22nd.
So just
Not that I'm
do it,
saying, I think there'll be a lot.
No, I get what you're,
There's gonna be a
sorry.
lot of, we're all involved in politics here.
Yes.
So it's
I
gonna be a late
spaced
night.
out.
So
Yeah.
23rd, the Wednesday?
I've got a
Yeah.
doc- I've got a
Do the
doctor's
8th and the 23rd.
I've got a doctor's appointment in Renfrew the 23rd at 11 a.m.
Oh, we don't have to start until 1:30.
Hopefully make it.
That's the shared services meeting, and it's at 9:30 at the Eagle's Nest. So.
Or a
then
Thursday
I'll-
or whatever. It doesn't
No,
matter.
no, the Wednesday's
I'm
perfect.
open.
The
I just,
Wednesday-
yeah, like I say, a lot of us are probably gonna have sleepless nights or the night before.
so we're looking at, then we want to do the October 8th and
And the
October
23rd?
and the
23rd,
23rd.
yeah.
That'll work.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
All right,
better.
Steve?
Steve
Oh,
is one of the items. in
Steve is
the-
closed.
Oh, Steve is closed, okay, so then,
Just have him hang out for a
yeah,
couple minutes.
they hang out then, I guess, if Steve's in closed, he's,
Why is live streaming of meetings on this?
Okay, I put that on?
Oh,
Yes,
sorry, I thought
because,
Sandra did.
no, I asked her to put that on because I was very curious to see what happened on our meeting when I was in Syracuse. And I
And
couldn't
we
see it.
didn't live stream it.
Yes, so I was going to ask that anytime that the public is here to attend our meetings, that we could have our live streaming there. It keeps us a lot more transparent and open. And I think that it would have been really handy if a counselor could look back and see what happened at the time
Epic
rather than
fail.
go on hearsay.
Sorry about that.
Okey dokey.
Probably my error.
So,
I'm gonna blame myself.
well, one of the things too, Sandra wasn't really,
Sandra was new.
wasn't up to date on it, but it should have been. The whole, I think the whole thing, what happened with that meeting anyways, it was supposed to be just more or less a direction given. But because of the information we received at the last moment, it got totally derailed.
I agree.
Because I was under the conception it was just more or less clarification of a report, and then it got totally derailed,
That's what I thought it was too.
but that's not what the meeting was.
But we only got the information
I-
half an hour before the meeting.
Well, 4 minutes to be exact.
4 minutes, half an hour.
So, and that's the problem with that, so. But I agree with you, Tim.
Okay,
Everything, as far as I'm concerned, definitely if the press is around, and for us to be transparent, we have the device, everything should be. So
and our
people-
licensing fee is the exact same whether it's on or off,
Yeah.
so.
I'll be honest, I didn't even think of it.
So everybody should have the, and especially when a counselor is missing,
Yes.
then they have the ability to not necessarily watch it at the time, but review it at a later date. So definitely,
Absolutely.
sound good?
I've been reprimanded, I get it.
No, that was.
It didn't even occur to me.
Well, in all fairness, I didn't even know it was gonna be a council meeting until I showed up.
Well, had I known there was actually going to be a council meeting,
That's,
I might have changed my course, but because it was just supposed to be an update on what our peer review was, I didn't think it was any big deal, right?
Well, and I didn't
So-
think Jack and Merv were coming.
yeah,
So-
so maybe just everyone, if we're gonna, I've seen it happen twice now, just email in. makes
But I
everyone's life
phoned in
easier.
and called in
Yeah.
and said that I was gonna be away. I
Yeah,
did
Yeah,
think that,
just
so
if we can,
that everybody was, there was notification.
Yeah.
So.
yeah, just so we can plan, just to be professional across the board, I think just like everyone just like respond. Like just email in if we're gonna actually attend the meeting or not, just keep it consistent and stuff, so.
I thought it was just gonna be,
My situation
Yeah.
changed at the last minute. That was
Yeah.
nice that I was gonna.
But just for future,
Yeah.
to keep it from going sideways, right? If there's any meeting here that's open to the public, I'd like to see our live streaming on.
point taken.
Item 11, consent for plan and subdivision extension.
That's just the
The
resolution.
resolution for that,
I think I added that to the agenda before I got the correspondence.
before you got the
Okay.
correspondence, okay.
Boardwalk project, we're gonna wait until Bill is here.
Okay.
Yes, he's coming back at 4 apparently.
So do you want to do the tender or do you want to do
Well,
Lake
that's a
Clear?
resolution for
Okay.
tonight,
So then we'll do the Lake Clear.
and we did that.
No, we didn't. This is Lake Clear phosphorus levels.
Oh, with,
This is, I got information back from, Victor Castro. And, I sent you guys all the email on it, when I got it back. How should I put that? I was under the understanding, and I think most of us here were under the understanding back in March, was it, when he was here? March 5th, that he would be, he said he could provide us with a chart for Lake Clear, which would more or less a pie chart, which would break out the different levels and where they come from. And I think that would be a very valuable chart for us because that would give us the information of how much material is coming from cottages, how much material is coming from RVs, how much is coming from natural, how much is coming from the underwater mine that's there, and all these other parameters, right? So when I was talking to Victor, he assured me that he could do this chart. Months have passed by, and I touched base with him. If he was still working on that chart, or if that phosphorus pie chart was still available for us, or if he could prepare one for us. And as you can see by the email that we received back, he's looking for some information from us. Now, I guess what we should really decide is how much time and effort that we want to put our council, or not our council, but our staff through to give us this information, like how many of these dwellings around the lake are seasonal, how many of them are, permanent homes. That's the information they're looking from us. I still think if it's not a lot of work for our staff, it's something that we should seriously get done, because that gives us the more information we have about the levels and what contributes to them, the better off we are at making any decisions that we have.
And time is of the essence because they would like to come to our last October meeting.
Well, they can come to our last meeting, doesn't mean that we're going to do anything. We can just tell them, look, this is where we're at. This is the information we have. We're really not in, if you're looking at any information and testing that we have, it's all it tells us is that the levels are getting better in that lake. And Victor was even in agreement with this partnership fund testing that found on another site that's done by not just Lake Lear, a whole bunch of lakes in the area in Ontario. And he even, in the email, he even said, yeah, that's a good source. And if we take that source, it does testing from, I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it's the last year is 2016, and I think it goes 4 years or 5 years previous to that. And if you look at all the test sites, each year it's been getting better. So the levels,
So what Victor would like from us is basically what the housing situation is.
how many houses there's basically around the lake?
And
How many of them are
seasonal.
seasonal, and how many of them are permanent? And how many trailer parks and what's their capacity they have?
Okay, so let's turn this over to our CAO. How time consuming a job do you think this would be?
It would have to be done manually, like, I was like guessing maybe a day or two.
Okay,
Because we'd have to take the map, zoom in,
Select the individual properties.
and then go and look. Look
just
at
see
all.
what they're.
Jack
what
Lake
they're-
or watershed?
No, lake,
Just the lake?
you
Okay.
know, the watershed, the watershed,
Yeah.
that'd be everybody.
Well, I know that's what I
Yeah.
was saying.
No, it's just around I mean, if you read the email that he
Yeah.
sends back, it's people that are basically, I would assume he's referring to people that actually have property on the
Yeah.
edge of the lake.
Okay, so I would ask if council thinks that this is a useful thing to forward to Victor to get this pie chart done. And then what is he gonna do with this information with the other entities like the gulls and,
Well, see, this is how, basically how a pie chart would work. He would take, it's a known fact based on a residence around the lake, how much they contribute to the lake based on, it's a known, it's not something he's gonna assume, it's a fact for, if it's a seasonal house, it contributes so much phosphate.
okay,
And you have so many houses, say you have 100 houses, I'm just putting a number in. So 100 houses would give you so much of the level.
okay,
And then the non-seasonal contributes so much, and that's what it's gonna give you. RVs give you so much. So basically, you add up all these numbers based on what the number is, the scientific number, and say it comes to, I don't know, we'll just say 10, right? And if the total number of phosphates in the lake is 50, then you then start taking your pie chart, and he can extrapolate how much is the house, how much are the RVs, and then he'll know by the watershed, how much is contributing from natural runoff, and you build yourself a chart. And what this chart gives you then is how much percentage RVs are actually contributing to the phosphates that are in the lake. And if they're contributing something like 1, 2, 3, 4%, why are we chasing this?
okay.
You know what?
So
That's the way a pie chart is designed to work. So
I was just wondering how he was going to utilize the information, but it sounds like this is a very important thing for us to get done.
well, that's how a pie is. He has the other. If you read his email, he's
Yeah.
able to do the rest of the information, but he's not able to do the information that's he doesn't know, right?
Right.
So that's
I would
I
say
think the
this-
hardest part will just be if we are able to collect it at a well enough capacity that we can give proper information,
I'm
right?
getting a nod.
Yeah, because the hardest part is to determine if it's a seasonal residence or full-time, you
Mhm.
know?
Right.
But we had that problem too when we were doing the dump. But if you remember correctly, what Camian did, they took worst case scenario and put it all in 25 years. Right now, bank are going in this year,
Right.
right? So you could take worst case scenario, even if you said, okay, all of the houses are permanent, right? And then you see how much that phosphate actually relates to what the total number is in there. I just think it's, the more information you have, the more intelligent you can make a decision, that's all. And if he's available to do this, for us, even if it takes 3 or 4, I don't want to create more work for our staff, but if it takes 2 or 3 or 4 days, I think it's well spent time that we can then say to the residents of Lake Claire, this is what we've done.
Agreed.
So then what timeline are we working with then? Are we gonna propose to our staff 1 to 2 months, 1 to 4,
Well,
1 month, 1 to 6? or-
it's whenever they have the time that they can do it, right? The sooner the better, but we're not going to say drop everything.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's what I'm saying. I just don't want to drop everything.
Give them
No, agreed.
give them a month to do it.
or whatever time they
Yeah.
fit it in. Like, I wouldn't be hinged to this time they're coming in. They can come in all they want. That doesn't mean we're gonna tell them
But
anything.
I'm sort of getting an indication here behind the scenes that this could probably be done by then.
Well, don't forget, then it has to go to Victor.
We won't have
No,
our
that's
pie
true.
chart results,
Yeah,
it's just
we have
our
just-
in-house timeline.
Just because they're in-house, then the information has to go to Victor, and then Victor has to.
We'd really like him to get on it right away because we've been waiting for it since March.
I've been on him to try,
I know,
you can
just
only
saying.
push so much up a hill, right?
I know.
At least he's
So
been-
Would it be safe to say if you gave us the 2 weeks
Yeah.
deadline to pull the information together that we could send to Victor, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. That's,
Sounds good, Dana. Thank you. Thanks, Sandra.
no, I just think it's thanks, guys. I just think it's a valuable information for us to have.
Don't disagree.
No more
with you.
work out of today's meeting, okay?
Okay.
Well,
Well, okay, so what else we have left?
Large trucks
Large trucks, oh
on
yeah.
municipal roads.
large trucks on municipal roads.
Bring them over.
Where do we start, hey?
Can I say something before you start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much for taking my call and giving me the information you gave me.
Okay,
I did receive a phone call from a business owner,
okay.
and I think that this got blown a little out of proportion. He said there were several complaints. There was one complaint.
Yeah, he might have misunderstood.
Okay.
I don't know if he misunderstood
And
that. The several complaints that I've been talking about, it's not just this one,
Okay,
okay? So
Okay.
it's not just that personal,
okay.
okay? So I kind of wanted to touch on things going back as long as it was in my headlights, so to speak. First time I've heard about people really complaining about anybody with large trucks in our municipality was out on Melanie Street, you know? And it started, I heard a lot of stuff back then, and I think that was the first time you and I had our interactions.
It was.
Then I heard about O'Connor Road was another spot with
Oh.
large trucks, right? With coming out of Killywood Products there was.
Oh, it's
there
O'Connor.
was-
Sorry, I had a different road name in my head.
So anyway, so then last week, we're fortunate enough to have somebody behind the scenes of a wheel of one of these log trucks
Mhm.
coming through an area and actually be the focus of the complaint itself. So, it kind of bothered me because it's a posted 40-kilometer-an-hour zone,
Mhm.
and I didn't exceed the speed limit of 35. Or I've never exceeded 35 coming through there.
There was no speed complaint.
Okay,
The complaint was that the township has spent so much money on Lake Clear Road. Why are we allowing logging trucks on that road? That was the complaint.
I'm going there.
Okay,
So anyway, I try to, do my, Brent had said earlier, you know the way I come down Melanie Street, right? So I'd like it to be out to the public to realize that one thing, okay, I drive a log truck and in the logging industry. And that's what has made these roads for the most part in our entire municipality. It started with logging roads. I live on the 4th Chute Road. Okay, so the logging companies, right? 5th Chute, those chutes weren't to just send water through, those were to send logs through. And the logging operations here in this municipality are the reason why people are here right now, why there are accessible lakes to get to and such. So to ask somebody just because they're a little bigger than them to not share the same road that they live on, because I don't know whether we look scary or what. And like I said earlier before, there's people that don't obey laws in every area, and there's always the bad one that tries to ruin it for everyone. But I have some little numbers from my own fuel tax contribution that I pay every year towards the roads. And last year I was approximately 60,000 liters of fuel with one truck. Okay, so out of that, just in the federal taxes and the provincial taxes, that's not the HST, I was $20,202 with one truck paying for our roads. Okay, a $6,000 license sticker. So it doesn't, I have just as much right on the municipal roads, and I would like the public to know, with my large truck, because I follow the Highway Traffic Act. It's a SPIF compliant truck, which is safe, productive, and infrastructure friendly vehicle that is not destroying the roads. It's in a time of year when there's no thaw on, and it's the Highway Traffic Act which determines whether I am out of bounds with that. So I just wanted to make that clear to anybody getting a call in the future regarding trucks on their roads.
Well, I generally know when something is an actual problem because I certainly get more than one phone call.
Absolutely, no, but it was just, you know, I've seen it in the past and it's been brought up at our table before, and it's been talked, not at our table, but at this table in the past. And I just want to make sure that everybody's quite aware of that. Trucking, when you see a truck going down the road, maybe thank him the next time because he's contributing to a lot of infrastructure.
Well, forestry is what Renfrew County was based on, so.
Absolutely.
Well
So,
said.
Okay,
okay,
do we want to do splash pad or do we want to go on?
Let's
to
do splash pad and then take a quick break.
Splash pad?
okay. I just wanted to add the splash pad on because I seen the numbers this year for the water bill.
Water.
I saw
The
that.
water bill is what, I don't know what the total cost is, Sandra, now at the end of September, what do you think what it's going to be for this year before it shut off?
I don't know because of September's.
Okay, so what are we up to date?
19,
Just about the 20,000?
so, yeah, 19.
Just about the $20,000 for the water.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's up to August 31st.
August 30th.
So we're gonna come in just at
Well,
what we
and
budgeted.
I thought we said that there was going to be at
10.
10,000.
10 is what we
10,000 is what we budgeted for because we weren't sure of what it was going to be until
So,
I figured that out. That's approximately $6 per household in everybody in Bonnechere Valley.
so what I would, so I had a couple of suggestions and you heard one of them earlier, is that if people need water delivered, we should probably be in the water business. You know, we were told about a couple of houses in Foymount that their wells they're done and they're having water delivered. So I was wondering if that was something that perhaps we should be speaking to Daryl about selling water outside of the village of Eganville. Maybe not something for you to decide right this second, but we do need some way to offset this budget for the splash pad. And my thinking was that people are buying water from other places. We heard this morning from Armprior, from Pembroke. So is this something that we should be looking into? And quite frankly, You know, I wouldn't have minded some water to water my lawn this year. I certainly wasn't taking it out of my well.
Well, we do get a few people come and get water, but we do get, but it's mainly all swimming pool people.
Oh, yes, that makes sense.
Because there's a lot of issues with hauling drinking water for
Hauling potable,
potable water.
right.
But what I'm getting at, Jen, is so it's the sheer consumption on that facility, because that water that's used up there, that's basically on everybody's tax bill in all of Bonnechere Valley,
Yes.
right? So without making it less fun, is there a way that we can make that less or more water friendly? Because
So what I was gonna say is just so because I've gone there with my daughter and stuff, and we play around this and that, but one of the things that I would recommend to look at is what I see other kids doing is they really like pressing the button. So really it's just seeing what our timing is at right now, shortening it. Because the thing is I've been there probably 8 times and you'll see it just free flowing, because before someone leaves, they'll hit it and then you have you'll have consumption going through, right? So it's kind of looking to see what our timing is at as well. That's why I look at. But the number didn't surprise me, I think I'm the only person here on the water and super that pays it. So it doesn't surprise me. Like I know when my neighbor, they got sod delivered and they're watering for a month, it was $500. Same as my neighbor Ted there. He was watering his grass and I think he was about $400 for 1 month. So like it did not surprise me.
But you're talking about a recycling system.
well, no, I'm just saying that it's more in excess of what we thought it was going to be, you know,
And I said,
discussed this
if
at
we're
the
spending that
last
kind of
budget.
budget, that thing has got to be on all the time. And Brent just proved that out. The other thing is, our hours of operation too long?
Well, this
But
is
it
what
was
I'm
also-
saying.
It was also a brutally hot summer.
But it is
But Tim,
it's a lot of cash, you know, like that's
Yeah,
20
Mark.
grand and,
That's a
you
lot
know,
of showers.
yes, it is.
Do
Tim,
we have
what-
any idea how many people have used it? Is there any way? Is that monitored at all or not?
I think that would be probably a question for Kevin.
Kevin, yeah.
But what I was gonna say, what we could recommend when Kevin's here next is ask him what the timer is at, because I know for a fact it does run for like a decent chunk of change. I remember the joke that Katie's sister and brother-in-law said was, "Brent, are you stressed out because the water's running but no kids there?" Because they pressed it and they're curious, they want to see all the stuff on. So the thing is, I'm just one person. So how many times is
Yeah.
utilized? So the thing is, and I know for a fact that the kids love pressing the button. So the thing is, we can kind of revolve it and change it of the fact that let's see what the timing is at and ask Kevin, and then we can make kind of decision from there. But I think you can look at sprinkler systems or whatnot to reuse the water somehow, but
The thing is, this
There are
stuff,
recycling-
it does scare me
Yeah.
because we all know, and we've been talking right from January of this year, that next year's gonna be lean and mean. And if we were over 10 off of our budget this year, that means we've got to suck it up somewhere else, right?
And that's,
And I don't want to be losing essential services so someone can go have a shower.
so that was one of the things that I was trying to suss out when we got the email from Sandra, was how to mitigate this. Certainly we can ask Kevin to look into a recycling system. But there are other, but I think that there's some other ideas. There's a friend, that's.
Well, I agree with Tim. Something has to be done. That's a substantial overrun. And so we have to look at some way of, like you say, getting a timer or doing something to,
there is the timer. It's just you can adjust the time it's
so
on.
what's it on for, like 5 minutes or something?
No, off the
3
top of my
minutes, I
head, I
believe,
think it's
right?
like 2 to 3 minutes off the top of my head. So the thing is my recommendation is to lower it down to probably a minute. And then because the thing is, I know for a fact that kids like pressing the button. So it's kind of an easy way to transition. But also I would just say, you know what, let's bring in more people and compensate, because that's generally how, say, a subdivision works is, say you have, say, 50 homes and you have a splash pad, right? So now you have to get the 50 homes to go with it. That's the way I look at it.
No, and what did it work out to this year for on every 100,000? What was Brian's numbers? $12 in reduction for every 100,000 used. we don't want to be starting to add that back on.
No, Dan will be really upset
know,
because he already
absolutely.
congratulated us for lowering his tax bill.
No, and I mean, we pulled a lot of nose hairs to get it that far, so.
But if we are actually going to do, say, an investment grant up at Legion Field, it's something to look at to incorporate in as well.
So
right? Like as a general, that's
So
what I recommend.
tennis courts, curling club, and maybe a recycling system for the splash pad.
Well, especially we already know we're gonna have, so I asked Kevin part of like the grant we got from the previous council when AMO gave us the grant. One of the things he was looking at was an inventory to give to us, let the group know and how much wood you need to finish off all the benches that you started doing. Like there's certain other things, same as one of them was like, how can we make like the community center better? Because the accessibility ramp that's blocked off, right? So how much lumber do we need to utilize it again? So I'm just waiting for that list, but we can have these conversations with Kevin as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we got to remember too, with splash pad, you still have the opening and closing costs on top of that. Right?
Well, that has to be inspected every day.
Yeah,
It's gotta be flushed out, I guess, right, for the
Oh,
winter.
yeah.
Antifreeze put in it.
No, so.
There's a procedure, but anyways, it's something that has to be, so first year with it, we have to, now that you have more accurate numbers, you have to somehow thin it out.
Well, and that's,
Well, we have it here. It's not going anywhere. And the thing is
So
how
we
I
just have
look
to
at
make
it.
it affordable.
Well, I look at it and let's just bring more people around it. That's the easiest thing. Get more people using the diamonds in the community center, curling club.
that's why I
Good to
think
go.
a Legion Field grant may be the way to go.
Yeah. Like that's the thing. You have farmers market that's successful. And the thing is more people you attract to our community, more people are going to utilize the splash pad. And the thing is doesn't mean it's going to get utilized more. It just means you're going to have 8 kids there instead of say 2. That's the way I look at it is more people having a community, the more people you're going to actually invest into the town. So.
All right, something we can talk with Kevin when he comes, I guess.
Yeah.
Can I have a 2-minute break?
Oh, yeah.
Before we go through? I'll go to walking
Oh,
through
my
again.
gosh.
Yeah, we'll take a break, guys. Okay, guys, ready? Okay, okay, guys, we'll call this meeting back to order. I guess we'll go to, what do we have here?
Boardwalk, that's all we've got left, and then a couple.
Boardwalks project status. Okay, so, I don't know who wants to start off. Myself, Tim, Merv, Brent, whoever.
I would like to start off by thanking Fred Blackstein for facilitating a phone call between the engineers. Much appreciated, Fred, and thank you for your report.
Okay, can I be brought back up to speed? Because I didn't have any kind of YouTube affair.
Yes.
I was under the understanding when I left the country that we were to give an update only on our Cambrian peer review.
Okay,
So where did it go from there?
okay, so what then transpired is that the group came back with a report that was written by two of their members. That report sort of caused a bit of angst. And so what the decision that was made was that Fred Blackstein very kindly was going to just facilitate a very fast phone call between our engineers and the engineers that the community group used. And what transpired from that is in Fred's report. We did do a site visit that day. Bill had brought grave concerns to us that the helical piles, did I get that right this time? Yes. Were loose. And we actually went down to the river and sure enough, they were loose. So at that point, not wanting to lose the entire project, the idea was brought forward, which was brought forward months ago by Jack, that the dock be moved onto the land. So a couple of issues with that. Number one, there is a sewer line that runs very close to there. Fred was integral in the Pembroke Boardwalk project. And I believe, Fred, you said twice you had to move the sections to repair water and or sewer. So this would be based on that model where they could be moved if need be. The second challenge is these rocks. So Cambium said that the rocks need to be removed.
Yes.
So the question Fred was asking was, could a mesh gate be put over them under because now the rocks will be underneath the dock. So that was the question that sort of came out of all of this. Moving it on land, I don't see as a problem at all. The rocks are a challenge.
Yes, and by the look of the window of time, we've got a very short time to do it. And if our engineers that we bought are paid to do this work, have given us recommendations, I don't see us being able to go outside that window of recommendation.
Okay, so what I was going to ask, with council's permission, is I will be with Cambium for the next 3 days in Cornwall. Would you mind if I asked the question?
Well, I think,
Okay, let Brent go first. Go
well,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think like because we had the initial Cambion like never stayed to pull the rocks out. The second one stayed. All I'm saying is that I think it's worthwhile for all the donations that have come into, this project. I think it's worthwhile for us to investigate if Cambion's recommending to use the Gabion baskets because of the mesh to hold retain the walls in. I think it's fruitful for us to look into seeing if there is a solution that we can put the galvanized mesh over top of it, especially since you don't have to worry about the aesthetics. And that's what Fred had said in his report, that you can anchor it in properly, because if the concern is that the rocks are going to go down the river and stuff, then if it's covered, then it makes sense. But if we can get Cambion to look into it, I think it makes sense. I think we should cross all our X's on this and not rush it.
I think now, I don't want to take this away, but we have the recommendation, right? We're not trying to say no to anybody donating. We're not stopping this project. I just looked at, we've spent the money, the taxpayers' dollars, to do this research. They give us their unbiased opinion on what to do. I think we should be following the peer review that Cambian has provided and get the stones out while we still can and follow their guidelines. And then when that is done, we can go ahead to the next step. We wouldn't be stuck here had it been done right the first time.
And
So
I was just gonna ask the question.
that's
Because
it,
I'll
that's
be
all.
with the two of the owners.
Well, I'm just one step back here. The baskets, the wire mesh, whatever you're using is for, it's not going to hold back the material that Cambian is worried about. They're worried about the material. When we went down there and you can see it washed up and come back. No basket screening that you have 2 inches is going to hold that material that could migrate down to the plant. That is why they made it quite clear, the material must come out. If the material, just think about it, if the material could have stayed in there, do you not think they would have said, if you purchase this type of mesh and secure it, you can keep the material?
I did ask that question.
They did not do that. The material has to come out. And it's not only, they said that once, and then we went and we spent tax dollars to go ahead and we agreed to have these engineers talk with Frank's help, and we went and did it. And after that, the report that we got back from Sandra said, from Stuart, was basically, there is no new information. We still stand by our report. There is no changes. So that tells me there that the rocks have to come out. And why are we fooling around, bringing in more possibility, more damage to our only asset we have? Right now, we have 2 turbines that are totally gutted. The shafts have to come out. The runner chests are done. Now, you can say whatever you want. You can say, oh, that's not the cause. That's not what happened. But I don't believe in coincidences. That thing ran there from 2002, and there was bearings placed occasionally. We never had the destruction of the plant that we have now. So as far as I'm concerned, we've already kicked this thing down the road enough of times. And if there was a solution, Stuart would have given us that in the first one, not saying the material has to come out.
Well, I just don't see why we would jump the gun in the fact that the groups come up with, like, they've agreed with Cambian and have come up with solutions for everything. I think the only remaining question was that why could we not approach Cambian or have the group all agree that we give support to the group to approach Cambian and see if this solution will fix the problem. And that's how I look at it, and especially like the reason that the shot rock was never added in for the emergency permit, the ground boulders were added in, was because M&R specifically wanted a fish habitat there. So that's their specifics. That's why they never did shot rock. These you can compact it in. The reason there's the round boulders was because M&R specifically asked. You can call Paul Kilby, who was the emergency person that was in charge of it, and he'll confirm that. So that's all I'm saying, is that I think that we should look at all solutions before we're in a mess. That's what we're going to be in.
Excuse me, how are we in a mess? We're in a mess if we miss the October date, and what are we going to do? Leave the plant off all year until you get this fixed?
Well,
or
no,
are you going to run the risk?
I don't think as councillors that we need to be drawing the EGC incorporated with our decisions or at this.
No, I think we have to. I think we have to.
That's what I'm saying is that. But the thing is we all know that if we pull out the material, then what are we going to replace it with? Like that's the only question I had. So why can't we bring the solution to Cambian?
My concern is follow Cambian's recommendation for now, get it done, get what they've recommended us to do, and then we can go ahead and do the next step. But this has to be done first.
Fred would like to say something, Jack.
Well, Gerald would like me to say
Well,
something, so I will with your permission.
Fred came up from Pembroke to answer questions concerning his report to council. We were asked to attend, so I would hope that at least you would give him the floor for a few minutes.
It won't even be a few minutes.
Go ahead.
So the document, I presume everyone's had a chance to read. That very brief document. It's probably a 10-minute read. And you've read the disclaimer that I'm, although a professional engineer, not in this field. The biggest concern expressed by Cambian in the document was the concern with the piles going into the river to be the outer part of the boardwalk, which would be put into the river bottom. I was on the telephone facilitating the discussion for just about an hour, and 95% of the talk, the concern was about the piles being in the river and questions about insufficient lateral stability of those piles out there in the river, waving back and forth because they wouldn't be anchored into bedrock under the river. Their point was well taken, that a geotechnical survey would have to be done if you were going to put any piles into the river bottom. And I certainly wouldn't argue that. After the discussion, which basically was a very good exchange of views, I took the liberty of coming down to the site again, spending a fair bit of time consulting other people that I knew, and asked to convene a meeting of the executive of the volunteer committee. What I put forward in engineering terms or science terms, we used to have an expression that was a simple yet elegant solution, whether that was mathematics or science. And that old phrase, simple but elegant, is what drove me. I looked at the project and realized that if the volunteers would be prepared to say, let's not try and put this into the river, use the existing helical piles that were there along the shoreline, not in the river, they're along the shoreline, and use those existing helical piles retorqued by the firm, certified by a professional engineer, and make those piles the outer part of the boardwalk, the outboard, if you will, and then move the boardwalk in towards the parking lot. And then I won't repeat everything that I've written in the document, but it would mitigate a lot of the issues. But in terms of what the telephone conversation was, and when you look at the bulk of Cambium's report, its prime concern is the lateral stability, safety, and liability of those piles being in the river. So therefore, I basically prepared this report, and I'm not here to argue it in any way. Simply, as a volunteer, I put that together and recognized that it would salvage virtually all the investment that's been made to date in those piles. And finally, the mesh question, which is being thoroughly discussed. So that's really all I wanted to add. But after facilitating the call, the bulk of the call was about the piles going into the river bottom. So I'll stop at that point.
Fred, maybe you don't know exactly how much land we have there. My problem is, how do we put a 12-foot dock on a piece of property that's 14 foot 3 on one end and 13 foot wide on the other end?
Okay, I can answer that.
And if you're going to build it up 2 feet, your approach is going to be on the other property.
So I can answer that, and very briefly. The piles that are there when retorqued will support the ability to put the boardwalk out. It's not even a cantilever, but extend it out a bit in the same way as you do with a roof, where you have an overhang. The engineers have already looked at that, taken the data from Post-Tech. They have installed something in the order of 30,000 of these helical piles across Canada. Steve Petrovich, the engineer that works for these folks, and it can be put out several feet, and that's how you get a 12-foot boardwalk onto the narrow strip.
So how many of them could you actually physically take and shake back and forth?
Mostly they were the extensions that were bolted on that you could move back and forth, but the point's well taken.
That's the thing, Fred, and that's not the issue here.
Let me finish. I talked to the people that installed the piles. They've done a lot of work for me at the Shaw Woods, at the Pembroke Waterfront, and at the Deep River Marina. They agreed to come in and retorque those to the engineering specifications to make sure that they're properly bedded.
They should have maybe went to those specifications at the time of installation. And so anyway.
Anyway, we can talk about this, we can kick this all the way around. I believe the reason why the stones were probably never brought up at Camion is because their number one concern is the piles. But a secondary concern is as well is the problem with the material that's in there. You guys probably never even brought it up in the conversation. I wasn't involved in the conversation, but maybe Sandra taped it or whatever. I don't even know. Was it brought up in the conversation, the material?
It was. And it was a secondary issue at the end of the report. The report reads, and in addition. But the primary issue that we spent on the telephone was what drove me to suggest not putting piles into the river, using the existing piles.
But the rocks are still a concern.
They're in there.
Huge concern.
That's why he came up with the solution he did.
So I'm just saying that I'm not asking for more taxpayers' money to go back to Cambia. I'm going to be at a conference with the owners.
We've got a
And I'm
small window.
Just leave
Sorry,
leave-
but
leave her finish.
I will see them tomorrow. I can find out tomorrow if there's another solution. I'm not asking to wait till next Wednesday. I can ask them, I can send off an email. If they say absolutely not, then that's the answer. And if they say, well, maybe there is something that we can do, then I will ask John Debian or Bucky Dave Buchholz to send council a note. So I think, the timing of this actually worked out quite nicely considering I'm going to be with them.
The thing is, how long then before we get a response and then go again? I don't think that we should be paying somebody to do a job for us and then argue with them a couple of weeks later and come. It's not the point, guys. It's the fact that we've asked for a non-biased opinion. They've given it to us. And just because some people in the community don't like the answers, we're not going to beat this horse till it's dead again. We have a dam that's making very little to no revenue. We have to get it back up online. We don't want to take a chance about doing this again next year.
No, we do not.
And in order to keep our water rates down, we need the revenues to do the reserves out of this dam. So look at guys, you can play with it all you want, but the gain isn't worth what we're doing right now. And I said, I'm not going to say no to doing this project. We have a recommendation. I suggest we follow it. And it's not our fault that people went off on this thing. When you got helical piles that are wobbling back and forth, they didn't follow protocol. Like it wasn't done right. And that's what we've said right from the start. And I've been vilified and Jack's been vilified across the papers and such as we're bullied into doing these decisions. I think not, guys. The thing is, it has to be done right. That's it. That's all. I mean, I still represent the ward and I represent Grattan, and on behalf of Bonnechere Valley, I'm glad you brought that stuff forward last November, because if this thing would have been built with helical piles that are straddling back and forth and you got 100 people out there on Canada Day and it fell in, what would we look like in a liability suit? So no. My recommendation is Cambrian was good enough to give us their response as quick as they were. We follow it.
Well,
I
and
have a
I
closing
just,
statement, Madam Chair, which
Yep.
is the last you'll hear from me. Madam Mayor, pardon me. I want to make it clear that I have no skin in this game, as they say.
Right.
I'm just a volunteer that came down from Pembroke out of respect for the warden of the day, Mr. Tracy, and the other volunteers. So I have nothing to argue here. It's neither here nor there from my perspective. I do want to point out, though, that enough has changed in the proposed design since Cambium came in and did the review. I believed enough had changed with moving out of the river, moving those piles out of the river, that it was worth at least looking at to try and salvage the investment. And the other thing I had, just for casual interest, was on Thursday of this week, we had a tour of the Pembroke waterfront with Mayor LeMay and MP Cheryl Gallant, and 40 other people came down to spend the afternoon with me. And we looked at the projects, and Ms. Gallant was mostly intrigued with the helical piles that were installed, and you will see a photograph of her in her next communication, examining and admiring the piles, which went in without excavating, no sonotubes, no concrete. So that's the last comment I would make. I really just came down to try and give some assistance.
thank you, Fred, always appreciated.
So what I was gonna say is you can have the conversation with Cambion, but what I would suggest is if council wishes, is that we can have the ACDG approach Cambrian and see if they have a solution, and we can give them X amount of time. I remember Sandra's email for a recommendation. That
Okay.
it just does, to me, it doesn't make sense that we don't ask Cambion to see if there's an alternative. This wasn't the main concern for the rocks. Is there an alternative to use the steel mesh over top of it?
But
So-
I think that the biggest thing is that our asset is right there. EGC is right there. And so I think that adds an element of those rocks that might not be in other places on other rivers. And I think that that's where Stu was probably, it was Stu, right?
Yeah, Stuart.
It was Stuart probably saying, okay, well, I'm standing here where these rocks are and the dam is right there. These rocks need to go.
Well, and just, I've heard it before, people said rocks don't float. Well, they might not float on water the way it's such. I stood firsthand at the Remax building in Petawawa and watched that shore disappear this spring. Okay, so stuff migrates, stuff goes down and downstream. It's not going to go upstream, it's going downstream. And yes, if there was 6-inch minus product used and it's giving our asset any threat, whether it be 1%, I'm not willing to jeopardize it.
Okay, well, all I'm asking for is permission to speak to Cambium tomorrow.
I think we've already spoke.
They're gonna be there.
I know.
I just don't want to kick it down the
Well,
road.
they're going to be there, but I still would suggest that we would have a conversation, see if there is an alternative. I'm not saying the taxpayer is paying for it. Well, why would we not support a decision for the ACDG to have a conversation with Cambion? If they're structural engineers,
It's a few loads of stone, Brent, get it out of there.
This is my time to talk. I was just gonna finish.
You ask me a question, I give you a response.
Go ahead.
We aren't gonna go along with the 2 structural engineers. So what I'm requesting is then if Cambion agrees with, say, a solution to put a material on top, maybe it isn't galvanized mesh that Fred had suggested. Maybe there is a solution, because the thing is, taxpayers have spent a lot of money on this as well. And same as the donations. And the thing is I just don't want to see the project fail and that we're just going to end up in a situation where we have to give money back and this and that. Where I think our focus should be is we have time. Say, I know in Sandra's email, she had stated that we can go by, I think it was like the 20th. We don't have a response from Cambion with the ECG. All I'm suggesting is that we give the group the blessing to get in conversation, and Jen have a conversation with them as well. But what I would recommend is let's see if there is a solution on top of it.
So if someone else now in 2 weeks comes up with another solution, we're just going to leave this stuff there? It makes no sense to keep putting our plant in jeopardy. I don't like it, and it's costing us a lot of money as it is.
There's no guarantee that you're going to get an emergency permit from the ministry, if that's what you're looking for after October 1st to save the plant.
I never.
No, I'm just saying,
that.
just listen. If you're talking about getting mesh or whatever you want to try and get, now it's my turn. If you want to get that mesh is not readily available that you will have it here within a short amount of time. You're basically going to involve divers or something to tap it in underneath. If the mesh has to be more or less solid to prevent that small material from migrating through the mesh. You guys are thinking it's 2-inch stone on there. It's not. We already went down there. The picture's already there. Cambion already saw the 6-inch minus is exposed. So if this thing keeps moving, it's not like you're trying to keep large stone. You're trying to keep the material that went in there that was not proper material. That material was outside of the work permit to start with. That's the material that should be, that's why it's come out. And that's why they want it out. Because it wasn't within the work permit criteria. And now it's mixed in amongst all of the material. So the only way to get it out is to take the material out, put it on shore, and do what they said. Pack it back in, put the right material in. I don't see what's so hard about this. I really don't. I just don't understand.
But you would recommend that it come out for the winter?
Well, it has to come out, because how is she going to do it by the spring? If you leave it in there this spring, then if you're leaving it in there, I will have another council.
You're not suggesting taking it out right now and putting it back in. You're suggesting taking it out, leaving it on shore.
That's right. And then they put in what is they're required to put in, or if they want to put it up on shore or do whatever. Sift through it. You can't leave them. I don't understand how it's so hard for you to understand. Gaming baskets is for a certain size of stone. This stone is smaller than that. How are you going to keep that from migrating out?
So why can't we approach Cambion and ask them if there is another solution besides just taking it out? Isn't that easy. We've relied on, say, the engineers.
So Brent, what we're getting at, and I don't know if our communication is getting across, it's 6-inch minus, okay? So if unless you've got a screen down to
Nothing, it has to be down to
to 0
zero.
microns, it's 6-inch minus. It goes from 6-inch stones down to dust, okay? How are you going to contain that in anything other than, so by the time we come up with the solution, we're going to be well into October.
Well, no.
It's a few loads of stone, guys. If we can get that taken out, maybe we can get this project back on track. But our engineers said that stuff's got to come out, take it out.
But there's also a way to utilize the stone that isn't used for this boardwalk project.
Yeah, but
Like
that's,
Bill is willing to use it for
Well,
roads.
it's stone. We can, yes,
So, I mean,
absolutely.
it's not gonna go to
well,
waste.
that's what I don't understand why there's such an argument about it. I really don't.
I'm thinking all I wanted to do was ask the question, but I'm starting to feel like I am worried about that filter cloth that's ripped already. I do understand that you would be talking about filter cloth for the teeny tiny stones. I guess my question is, how do you get that material out with the least amount of cost? And how can we utilize it? And how can we make it easier on our community development group that wants this project to go?
Yes.
And I want the project to go from number one. All I said is I want it done right. I want it an asset, not a liability. And right now, it's just I don't know how you plan on putting any material that's going to stay there year after year with the ice push and not within, how are you going to
Okay.
fasten it? How are you going to keep it?
So number one, we're all on board with this thing going on land.
Yes, and anyway, I think for clarification, their silk cloth gets dropped into the water before any excavation gets done on shore. So
It would
it
have
does
to.
not migrate downstream.
I'm concerned about the room we have. Because even if you extend them a foot or a foot and a half, 2 feet beyond the tiles, I mean, we don't have room. And if you're going to put it 2 feet up, even with it out in the water, if you have a reasonable slope, you're going to be on somebody else's property. And
I
you're
think
gonna,
they figured that out.
like, how are you going to, without a reasonable slope?
I think Fred,
No, he
How
said, they said you put it out over the river bit, but how do you, I mean, there's only 14 feet. And so you move it out, you move your 12 foot out, 2 feet out in the river. What do you got left?
but I don't think that that's a problem.
Well, it could be if another company or these people said, hey, I don't want that on there. You don't have right to put it on there. Build a fence on their property line. What do we do with our dock then?
Well, I don't know.
Like I'm saying, I just want to go by our engineers. I don't want this project to stop. We can use the stone wherever it may have to go, but we have to follow our engineers' guidelines.
Well, if it goes on land, they don't need game bean baskets.
No, they don't. But you're gonna need gaming baskets or whatever you're gonna do for the fishing dock, whatever. That's another story.
That's a whole different.
So my understanding is, so the groups come up with solutions for pretty much everything. The only remaining item is seeing if we can go to Cambion, or they can go to Cambion, give them permission to talk to Cambion. And then we can see if we can come up with a solution that eases the last 5% of it. Like that's all I'm saying is they've come up with a solution, they've agreed, they've accommodated, they haven't worked on it. They've done everything according to what this council has wanted. So my question is why at the end of the day, would we not just see if there is an alternative solution that Cambion would recommend if this wasn't even in the initial report? That's what I'm saying.
It was
It was
in the
not.
initial report.
No, it was not.
No, it was not
But
in the
there's
initial.
there's a reason that it wasn't in the initial report. And that was Brian was trying to get a report to us. Sorry, Stu was trying to get a report to us the day of our council meeting. And he said there will be further information, but he knew that a report needed to come that day. So that's why.
If you read the initial report with any, no, I'm not gonna say it. If you read the initial report, you know that the material cannot stay there. You know that if you read it properly and go through it. There's very little change between the initial report and the report you got today after the meeting.
But the one
So,
said to take it on.
That's the only
And
difference.
the one said
Everything
not
else.
to. And that's the main thing, and that's what we're talking about.
So-
now. So all I'm saying is, what's the problem with seeing if these solutions will accommodate what the concerns from Camion was in the initial report, and seeing if we can come up with a solution to cover it as Fred had suggested.
What's the problem with following our engineer's recommendations? That's what I can't understand here, guys. There should be no issue.
I have
Why
a
are we even
question for
talking about
Gerald.
that?
Gerald, at our meeting, you did say that if need be, you guys could get an excavator or bolt, whatever the piece of machinery is, to remove that rock and put it on shore.
Well, Madam Mayor, I think this probably has come to the point where I will be calling a special meeting of the group, probably for Friday, because I leave next week for 2.5 weeks, so I'll be out of the country. I will be tendering my resignation, because I think I could be a stumbling block in getting things done with this new council. I feel fortunate that they weren't here when we built Fairfields and Centennial Park, because I'm sure we would have run into all kinds of problems.
Look, if it's gonna be to get
Tim,
done
Tim,
right,
Tim,
I don't
Tim,
care.
Tim,
No, you
I
start
was
back.
asked to talk.
Tim, just leave him have
Yes,
a
he
say.
was.
Leave him have a say.
Last fall, when it was noted that there was a problem with the rocks along the river, a solution was put into place by this township, I think, council.
No,
That
not
was
by this
put More
council.
rocks over our rocks. That was done, right?
In November, yes?
Yeah. So as far as we knew then, the problem was solved. Then the generators go down, we're blamed. There's no mention that we've had the 2 largest runoffs in 2 years on the Bonnechere River's history. But we get the blame because those rocks caused the turbines to go down. No proof, no evidence that that project caused it. We know that there's a conflict between members of council and members of our association. At this point, I don't see what we could possibly do to salvage this project, because no matter what we do, it's negated by certain members of this council. So I will be stepping down, but before I do that Friday, I will call a meeting of our group to see what their desire is. If in fact they want to go ahead and remove the rock from the river. Right now, we are broke because we paid all the bills with donors' money. And I did get some legal advice, because I sort of sensed this would come out of today's meeting. And because we are an ad hoc committee of the township, and that was mentioned several times over the duration of our organized time, there will be legal recourse for people to seek that money back. I'm not a lawyer, but that's just what I was told. I don't want to get into that nonsense, but someone has to pay. There's been money spent. There's still $20,000 owing to the owner of the Creamery property, which the township now owns. So you'll have to decide whether to pay the $20,000 balance and own that strip, or ask him for the $10,000 back if the land goes back to the Creamery property. I volunteered in this community for 48 years. I have never, ever run into a group as bullheaded as this. I mean, anything we say is wrong. Anything we do is wrong. We were willing to work together with everyone. We want to see this community grow and prosper, but clearly everybody is not on the same page. So I'm not going to make any bad friends over it. I will simply step back. I've done my share over 4.5 decades. Someone else can step up, and if someone has a better way or solution of salvaging the Creamery or the Boardwalk project, I'll support them, but I will not be part of it. I thought perhaps by having one of the most intellectual gentlemen in this county, who has given his life to volunteering for many, many causes, not only here today, but he's a member of our group. Fred's aware of what we've been doing there. And it's clear that there are people in this room far more intelligent than Fred, so I'll just leave it at that, and I'm sorry, but I'm not a quitter, but I'm not gonna have sleepless nights over something that I just want to do for the betterment of the community.
And I wasn't trying to upset you, asking
I'm
you
not
about the
upset.
bulldozer or the excavator. what I was saying was, if it's absolutely necessary that these rocks come out, and I still would like permission from council to ask the question, it's one question that I guarantee they won't be charging us for. I'm just saying, if worse comes to worse, if that's the only solution, obviously you're hearing from this council that we want this project to go forward. And there were monies promised, and it's in your minutes from members that we're going to pay that 20,000 for the remainder of the purchase of that property. I thought that had already been done.
There were promises made if the project goes ahead, but who is going to invest in the project that is opposed? Am I going to buy land for something that isn't going to happen?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, in the real world and in an ideal world, of course,
Jen?
there's support for that. We would have supported that project, just like we were going to do the Water Street lighting along the river to beautify that, just like we had a project in the plans to light the bridge to make it a nice attraction at night. Just like we wanted to create or establish downtown washrooms for the people who cross their legs going through town because they don't have the opportunity to see a washroom. I mean, we're here to enhance the community, but we're not here to, I mean, we get, you people are paid to sit here. We're not paid as volunteers. I'm sorry. We do this because we love our community and we want to see it prosper and see improvements. So, I mean, why, you can kick me all you want, but I'm not going to be kicked anymore. I'm sorry. I've done my share of.
I'm not here to kick any individuals. That's not what I'm up against. When you see helical piles moving that are totally weren't done right, so all the stuff that was done was.
Wrong material.
But those things can be mitigated.
Yeah, but they're wrong
Yes,
material.
but hence the questioning, hence the, I wouldn't be representing anybody in the community if I didn't ask the tough questions. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I want to make sure that things are asked appropriately. And I don't want to be accused of glad we didn't do Fairfields with you here. If to do a project right and with our engineers saying what was taken was right, well then maybe I guess call it whatever you will, but I stand behind the engineers and I stand behind what's going on.
I need one day.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Brandon, I have one page left to get to the printers. It's a sad day for Bonnechere Valley Township. Thank you.
Just give me one day to ask them a question. Just one day.
Where did this 20,000 we still owe come from?
Who knows? Who knows?
We didn't agree to that.
Who knows? It's just.
So I get that you two are not on board for me to ask Candy
Well,
the question, but you two are.
You don't need us on board. If you want to ask, you can go ahead and ask them. You don't need us on board because you have Merv and Brent that supports that. The bottom line is, people are forgetting you only have so much time here to get this material.
Jack, I get it.
But I don't
I'm
think.
talking one day.
So do we go ahead and start working on the permit? Mary told me, if we want this permit done, she has to have it in her, if we want to have that material so we can get it out by October, she has to have it in her hands by, today is
The 10th.
the 10th. She needs it by Thursday. She needs it in her hands. This permit is going to take a certain amount of time to do. It's not like we can just, you know what I mean?
Well,
So
tomorrow is the 11th.
So do we start working on the permit? That's what we have to know. Like Bill has to work on it, whatever.
Bill, are you comfortable if I find out for you tomorrow?
Well, I can help you with it. I don't know if you've done a permit before, but.
I've done a while, but. yes.
Well, unless, because we own the property, we have to do the permit.
Okay.
Bonnechere Valley owns the property, so they have to initiate the permit. Right? And.
Well, yeah, why?
No, go ahead, Bill.
All I'm saying is, we're not gonna do this permit overnight.
No,
go ahead, prepare the permit, do the pictures of everything you have to do. That's given Jen enough time to do what she needs to do. And if she comes up with a solution, you don't need to submit the permit.
That's right. You can always hold back on the permit.
She will not be coming up with a solution.
No, coming back.
She will not even be making query as to mesh baskets or anything else.
Yeah, no, that was.
I will simply ask the question, is there a solution for this 6-inch minus? If there is not, then that's the answer. If there is, then I will let council know. That's the best I can do. But in the wake of, I don't want to spend any more taxpayers' dollars on, no offense to Camium, but engineering costs. So by being at a conference with them and, just having a quick discussion, they answer questions all day long at these conferences, and they're really great about it.
Might cost you a glass of wine.
It will certainly cost me a glass of wine, Murph.
So how do we get direction of where to be able, if the material is to be removed? Can we leave the material on shore? Because it's not our property.
Well, that's something that's gonna have to be established. Bill.
Why can't we just stack it on our property?
We don't
We don't
enough
have that
room.
property.
We don't have that
enough
much
room.
room.
Have enough room.
Are we going to haul it away?
Well, that's
It's gonna
all,
have to be hauled away.
it's all at a cost. That's what I mean.
You
If-
can't leave it there for snow plowing in the wintertime.
Well, you can put a row up there. You don't have to snowplow that whole thing. That's, it's really not. So I think snowplowing, one of our least of our worries for that, Murph. But the bottom line is, if the material has to come out. Now, if they're gonna walk away from it, who knows? But they've walked away how many times and they always come back. There's a plan that's put forward too. I'm sure that Camion will agree to putting it up on shore. The only issue of concern right here is the material. So. it's to get-
They're perfectly fine with it being on land.
I know.
And to having the helical piles reach
I'm
more.
sure they will be,
Yeah, they're fine with that.
but it's the material.
That was
Remember, if we
the,
leave a windrow material, then it might be a drainage problem this spring too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I know, but whatever, but that's something you can deal with down the
I
road.
was gonna say, if you windrowed it, then you can deal with the drainage.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, you have to do something for the asset. That's all I'm saying. So, and the thing is, we went to the thing last year. They give us an emergency permit because we didn't know about the material until after the fact. Now we know about it.
Okay,
So we have to do our due diligence. We can't just keep going to the ministry and say, well, now we need emergency permit. Now we need emergency permit.
okay, well,
So we have to do our
I'll
due
tell you what,
diligence.
I have a delegate, Steve Clark speaks first thing in the morning. As soon as he's done, I will go and find Canebeam. And I will send an email as soon as humanly possible.
You have the support of council to do that, but as far as I'm concerned, we're wasting our time. So
It's my time to waste.
I know. Because, the material is the material. They do not make, not that I know of, and I've talked to our contractor and he's been looking at it. He says, I have not been able to locate any material because basically what you're going to put there is basically solid steel or mesh. That's going to
Yeah.
take, you can't have anything that's going to allow
No,
water.
it
to
can't be
go.
like chicken wire.
You can, and that's what gaming baskets are.
Yeah.
You can't.
No,
do-
but I thought that if we use Gambian baskets, that all that stone came out and then the larger stone goes in the Gambian basket.
Yeah, that's what the whole project's
I've
about.
learned so much.
But the bottom line is you have to get that stuff in. That's all I'm saying.
So let me ask the question.
Ask the question, just report back. That's all it is.
So, and I don't understand why we are labeled as the way we're being labeled here. Because the whole thing about this is doing it right. I brought this to the attention of council as plant manager last November. I said then that the materials should come out and I was overruled. We put the stuff in. We tried it. It didn't work. Now the engineers have said not once, but twice the material has to come out. And they've done enough material and worked around enough material. If there was some alternative, I'm quite sure they would have said something.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, but I still feel the need to ask.
Yeah, but
and not provide any form of, you know, hey, can we do this? I will ask the question.
All right.
Start,
So I guess we're
we're
down
gonna get
to
into closed.
into close now.
Bill had
Yeah.
a question.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
So the plan, correct me if I'm wrong, the plan is to go ahead and start preparing
Work permit.
a shorter form permit with silk cloth to, and the whole shooting match to have it removed. And then if we don't, because it'll take a couple days to get the permits going anyway.
Yeah,
And then if there's a solution, we just,
We've got 20 calendar days to get it out. So that's why I emphasize, you know, get things going so it can happen.
But I've already got the blessing that if she has her permit in her hands by Thursday, she will walk it around and we will get approval to start work the last week of September.
okay, well, that is a really, really, really good offer.
That's a good offer on her part.
Yeah, it is.
So, and she's told me that. So the bottom line is, that's all I'm saying. The decision has to be made sooner or later. And if we leave the material in, me as plant manager, I'll put a recommendation for it that the plant is not operating next spring. Because I'm not gonna see that type of money being wasted.
You're kind of out of your.
Yeah, I know, I'm out of my line.
Yeah,
So, but,
that's,
Yeah.
yeah, you probably shouldn't have said that.
yeah,
Bye, guys, thank
Bye.
you.
so,
Can I ask a couple of questions for the media session before you guys come to call?
sure.
Is that okay? So like you were referring to, and I wasn't at the last EGC meeting, I guess, so I'm just sort of wondering, like, 'cause you did refer to the damage and everything. So what's going on with the plant? Like, is the work being done there now or what?
Deb, can you ask Jack that outside of our council meeting? What we can do is just take a quick break,
Okay.
because he's now,
Can I
he's
ask him
wearing,
that then as
he
the-
can answer that, but not at this table.
All right, can I ask another question then about a different topic real quick?
Sure.
And so the splash pad, since we were talking about that, and so we got the water costs that are 20,000, and I guess you guys have budgeted 10,000 for water for the splash pad or for total splash pad cost?
No.
For
this year?
For water.
For
For
water.
Okay, and is money still owing on the splash pad or has it been
No,
paid off this CAO?
it's,
Yeah.
I know. No, it was paid off last year.
So the splash pad is paid off?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, just for clarification purposes. Okay, thanks, that's what I was asking. And then I'll just steal Jack for a minute, then you guys can go into close, I know time's running.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Okay, yeah.
Perfect.
Again, motion for